Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council met in closed session and discussed the items as listed. Items A and C, direction was given, no reportable action was taken. Item B, one case was removed. On the other case, direction was given, no reportable action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, let the record show that all 5 council members are present. If we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Moreno, if you could lead us.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Moreno, second by Ms. Hurtado. Please vote. We'll get there. 5-0. Thank you. Okay, announcement, public comments. Note, public comments are welcome. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Please complete a speaker form prior to the start of the meeting. If the item you wish to comment on is in closed session item, please comment now. If the item you wish to comment on is in the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when we get to the item on the agenda. First, oral communication is from Rosana Cordero. Ms. Cordero, again, is 3 minutes, and at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we'll give you a reminder. You have 30 seconds to finish.
Thank you. I would like to address you in Spanish. Is that okay?
Yes.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Rosana Cordero. Yo vivo en la calle Quirós, la que se encuentra cerca de la calle Williams. Sé que el tema no está ahorita en la agenda, pero me han comentado que consideran renovar 5 calles en CLXC y me gustaría que consideraran, por favor, la calle Williams. Yo vivo ahí desde el año 86. En la calle hay mucho tráfico pesado, hay demasiados baches y quebrada, está muy quebrada, está rajada. Cuando realmente en la noche, cuando voy manejando y no hay carros estacionados, me voy por la orillita porque es la que está menos quebrada y mi carro no va menos brincando. Los choques pesados estacionados a la orilla de la calle no permiten mucha visibilidad al dar vuelta a derecha o izquierda. Agradezco que hayan puesto un alto en la calle Sameles, es la que uso ahora para ir hacia la calle Clock, hacia la calle de la Co, thank you. En esa calle para mí es más fácil. Tengo que dar vuelta, rodear el parque, porque es muy difícil para mí dar vuelta a la izquierda o a la derecha usando mi calle Quirós hacia la Williams. Otra cosa, en la noche hay muy poca luz. Me gustaría, por favor, que se podían poner más luz, porque los muchachos pasan por ahí cuando van para la Forforles o todas esas áreas y está muy oscura. Entonces, se arreglaron la Clock y arreglaron la Andrade. Arreglaron el cruce de ferrocarril hace 1 año y medio, creo, más o menos. Realmente deseo que consideren, por favor, arreglar la calle Williams. Gracias.
Gracias. Jessica López.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to discuss, the very same issue that was just discussed, V.V. Williams. I've lived in the area my entire life. I still do. I now own the house where my parents raised me. And it's a wonderful area to grow up in, except for the streets are a horrible mess. V.V. Williams especially encounters a lot of high traffic. It's also mainly due to the business that we have in the area, which is the swap meet, that street is in such a ruin. We have trucks that exceed probably the weight allowed in the streets, but they're consistently passing through because they are traffic that is directed to mostly merchants of Santo Tomas. And the street is just deplorable. in comparison to the streets in Calexico. And I do realize that there are budget issues, and I do realize that their money is tight these days, and that maybe there are other areas that, in your opinion, maybe deserve more attention. However, we've been suffering with this issue for a very long time. And all I ask is that maybe you review the weight allowed, the weight of trucks allowed to pass by if you decide to invest in lifting up this area. I think that that business needs some requirements and regulations as far as what's allowed to pass through there. Also, as she addressed the light issue, it's very dark. The street, because of it, it's in such horrible conditions, you don't really use it at night, or it's not a good idea to use it at night because there's a lot of potholes, a lot of lifts in the, and tears in the street. And I just think that if Calexico decides to invest, which I hope they do, in fixing that street, that we need to address the issues with that business there in order to be able to maintain whatever improvements you are able to make on V.V. Williams. And more security would also be something that I think all residents ask for in the area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Silvia Ojeda.
Buenas noches. Le voy a decir en español.
Sí.
Vengo por
adelante.
lo mismo que vino la señora Roxana y la persona que se acaba de sentar ahorita. No voy a repetir lo que acaba de decir ellos porque me van a acabar mis 3 minutos. Tengo 28 años viviendo ahí, yo he visto lo mismo. He visto que ponen un plástico negro en la calle y ya, ahí se fue y ya está toda boluda esa calle. La cosa que no nos hacen caso de atender esa calle porque el señor de Santo Tomás, los Martínez, las personas ahí, disculpen que tenga que decir nombres, están coludidos aquí con la política. Entonces, yo sé que tienen un Adopta Highway, hacen muchas cosas para tener limpio por ahí, pero no la calle está toda boluda. Entonces, yo digo que el problema es de que como está coludido allí el compadrazgo o porque estuvieron aquí como tal vez algún día sentados aquí y son conocidos, no han podido arreglar esa calle, estoy segurita yo, porque si la arreglan, van a ser meses en arreglarlo, no van a poder pasar sus clientes y ellos van a perder mucho. Entonces, ese es el problema que hay ahí. No es que no la quieran arreglar, debe ser arreglada y no se ha hecho arreglado, yo pienso, por lo mismo, porque están coludidos aquí, pues, o no sé cómo decirle, afiliados. Entonces, si no hay alguien que haga algo por esa calle, no se va a hacer nunca. Porque como, si ustedes se fijan, hay una partecita que dice ahí, Adopta Highway. ¿Por qué no adoptan esa calle ellos? ¿Y por qué no la mandan arreglar? Así como Adopta Highway, que adopten la bebé Williams también, ¿verdad? Entonces así saldríamos de un gran problema, para que crucen por otro lado, para que sus clientes puedan llegar ahí, pero que ya no estén nomás reparándolo con pedacitos de plástico o algo negro que le ponen ahí, y es lo mismo, no se acaba el problema. Por favor, ayúdenos. 28 años tengo viviendo allí, y por cierto había una iglesita, no sé si ustedes lo recuerdan, ahí en Santo Tomás había una iglesita. ¿Dónde está esa iglesita? Era cultural, ¿por qué la quitaron? ¿Sí o no? Una cosa así, una reliquia, quien se acuerde que había una iglesita en Santo Tomás. ¿Se acuerdan que había una iglesita? No, ¿verdad? Solamente, bueno, gracias, por favor, ayúdenos.
Gracias. City Manager, if you can get maybe Mr. Servin to go out there and take a look at V.V. Williams.
We spoke about it, and we're going to be taking a look at it.
Okay, that's thank you.
No, wait,
And give us a report the next council meeting.
excuse me, Nick?
Yes.
They talked about streets and what they see as deplorable in that area. Hey, is that on our 5-year plan?
That is one of the streets on the 5-year plan.
And when will we get to that within the 5-year plan?
Well, we're shuffling some of the streets, and we're just about ready to let out a contract for paving some of the streets. And then, of course, next year, we have to list some others. So that'll probably be high on our list.
So it'll
There
become a
are some other
priority?
problems.
Okay.
I think the other information I'd like to give you quickly is that, as you recall, we're going to go ahead and bond some of our monies that we get for transportation monies, and we're looking to bond 50% of our cash flow, which I believe, if I remember correctly, will raise about $12 million. So, and we have, technically, we have 3 years to use that money. So we'll be doing a lot of streets in the coming years.
And then will we be able to address the one that Mayor Romero was brought up, and my car keeps going up and down right in front of family-style buffet on Cole?
If you recall that...
That's been in the 30-year plan, is that not correct?
Actually, it's been there for 20 years, and they haven't resurfaced it, so it's a 20-year plan.
It's going to be
Also,
done this year.
Also, on this item, I know we can't talk about it, but, well, you know, an idea is the traffic, I guess, was one of the big issues during the operations of the swap meet hours.
Right, and again, without getting into too many detail, I know the engineer is looking into that in reference to their responsibilities, the responsibilities of that business, and whether or not they have the adequate parking for one, and some other issues that we're looking at.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Excuse me, Mayor. I have a question. What about the $5 million that we have for Measure D to repair the street and roads here in Calexico? Do you have any update on that? Because
Are you talking about streets in general?
in general, yeah, because we have a Measure D money, $5 million. When are you going to start to use that money?
As a matter of fact, one of the agenda items before you is for a project to pave some of the streets. That's from ICTC funds and some other funding that we have for those projects. And that way we can do some of our 5-year projects with some of that money, Measure D money, whatever we can get.
Okay, so I believe B.B. Williams, that's the street that we are talking about right now,
Yes,
right? So I want to hear the date, or because what I hear is been almost 20 years like that. Is that true? Is that true? I mean,
Patchwork, but
how many?
patchwork, it has been done. There's a pothole, we
Aquí hay.
can't cover it up.
Aquí, allá.
You know,
Well, that is why the direction of the city manager to work with Director Sedvin to give us a report at the next council meeting.
Okay, sounds great. Also, I passed through that road, B.B. Williams, and I noticed that too many signs are very deteriorated. And Chief of Police, in order to the people or the customer obey what is the law says, or the meaning of the city ordinance, we need to replace those signs. So we need to pay attention to those signs, because I believe there's 2 or 3 signs are very deteriorated. So I think it's a good point on that, in order to the customer pay attention to those city ordinance signs.
one more comment, please.
Yes.
I think what's needed, and don't take it lightly any longer, is that we need to reconcile the rightful perspective of the citizens, and if I may indulge myself, maybe the thinking is, gee, we have $5 million, Measure D, we have a 5-year plan, that road, or a 20-year plan, that road and many roads have been like that for a very, very long time. So you're thinking, what the heck is going on? What are we doing? How is our plan working? How effective is it? And so I certainly accept your complaints. And so we as a city need to communicate with you, and we need to make these 5-year plans more effective. In other words, we need to get off our you-know-what and actually implement in maybe in a more effective way. Because I understand the frustration of the citizens. The roads, some of these roads are deplorable.
Yes. Thank you. Economic Development Commission report, Mr. Ben Horton.
Thank you, Ben.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, City Manager, and Attorney. What I'm going to do is just give a brief report on what has taken place. We had a joint meeting with the Business Improvement District and the Economic Commission to discuss primarily the fees, particularly the fire fees that were taking place, that were being enacted in the city. We decided to wait until, I guess, they're going to have another study put together to see, and I'm sure the city manager can elaborate more on that, on reference to the Maxman study. And we'll see how that, it was supposed to be within about 2 weeks. I don't know if Mr. Savine has some information on that part, but he was going to call him and see what has taken place on that part. And as he walks up here, we'll see what's taking place.
We did receive a proposal. We're in the process of reviewing that right now.
All right. Thank you very much. This next Wednesday, we're going to be having a meeting with the Economic Commission. We're going to also be discussing what will be the impact if the schools are taken over by the state. We feel that that's going to be a serious point to discuss, because if the state takes it over, there's a possibility that property prices will take a nosedive, certain factors will increase or decrease, and I think that's something that we should be looking at to see how it's going to impact the city of Calexico. We will be putting a report together, getting the information together, and bringing it forth to the city council at the next meeting. And the reason I'm saying this is that this is going to be a factor that we should look at and see what the impact is going to be, not till after it happens. Mr. Hodge.
Mr. Horton, you on the Economic Development Commission and along with BID, how long have you been working on this study or about impact fees?
Okay, we were directed by the City Council, you distinguished members here. Initially, it's been working on a little more than a year.
So it's time for us to get some kind of report.
You will be getting a report. That's why by next week we should be bringing this forward and finalizing our study. One of the studies is going to be what Mr. Savine brings forth about the Maxman study. One of the things we have to look at in reference to the Maxman study, it's about, I would say, about 7 to 8 years old. And you got to remember, that study started about 3 years before that. Sorry, I got to run out of my time. So we will put this together, bring it forth to the council, make sure we're on the agenda. If there's no further questions, that ends my report.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlton Hargrave.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Moreno and Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado and members of the council.
You can call me Moreno, that's okay.
He's been called worse.
Yeah, I've been called worse.
He's been called worse.
He's been called worse. Okay, I stand corrected. My name's Carlton Hargrave, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Calexico City Chamber of Commerce. First, I'd like to thank the council for the many years of support that they've given to the chamber in the past. And secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the letter that we received from the council to the chamber yesterday, requesting certain information to be presented to the council at your next meeting on March 13th, and we will be here, members of the chamber will be here to address that and make that report as you requested. We at the chamber realize that the RDA is gone, and funding for all the programs in the city is going to be very difficult in the current economic climate. However, the chamber is a vital part of the life in this community. Much of the time, the chamber is the first contact for businesses and families who come to this area. The chamber functions as a prime source for information being given out to people who want to locate in the area as well as do business in the area. Therefore, we believe that funding directed toward the Chamber of Commerce is an investment in the city and not a handout to the chamber. Over the years, there have been numerous discussions on this part of the city about the chamber participating in the TOT, Transit and Occupancy Tax revenues that are generated by our hotel and tourism coming to the city. Toward that end, we'd like to request that the issue of TOT taxes participation toward the chamber be put on the next council agenda so that that issue can be formally discussed and maybe some type of direction and resolution can come forward toward that end. So that's why I'm here tonight, to request that the council, as a future agenda item, put that item on the agenda so that it can be explored and discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrave. There are no more public comments. We'll go to the present, general comments by council members. Mr. Moreno.
Yes, I have a couple. Just wanted to thank the Arts Commission for sponsoring the play What is Love by Roy Dorantes.
Beats me.
I went to see it, I guess it was a couple of Fridays ago, and I was very impressed with the performance, the music, the dancing, the humor, the information, and the entertainment. And I guess all good theater needs to have both of those items, information and entertainment. So where's anybody from the Arts Commission here? Ms. Sandra Towler? Anyway, it was awesome. We need more activities like that in our community. Also, I want to thank Mrs. Towler and the Parks and Recs Department for the Sports Summit, which was held on Saturday. I know most of the council members were there in the morning. And it was the start of something new, something that had not been experienced before, and I'm glad that I got to at least spend a little time there. I had another function to attend to, but this is a good way of reaching out to the community, to let the community know about the recreation programs, but more importantly, to understand how to help your son or daughter when they're involved in these recreational programs, because they're the ones that profit in the value of it. So congratulations. I know Mr. Romero was there and Mr. Hodge. I didn't see Ms. Hurtado or Mr. Castro. They may have showed up later. But all in all, it was a great event. Immediately following the Sports Summit, I went to the Little League inauguration where there was about 300, 400, almost, I would say about 500 families out there, all the way from T-ball to the majors. And I'm glad that we saw a lot of participation of young men and women who are playing baseball in the city of Calexico. And I saw Mr. Chief Mercado was there. I think his son was playing on a team as well. But also, I want to congratulate Mrs. Luli Cordova. Her daughter was there, Liliana Cordova, who got to throw out the first pitch in honor of her deceased brother, Calexico Police Officer Adrian Cordova, which was very moving for me because of the importance and significance of public safety and recreation and all that intertwined into one. So that was another great event in the city of Calexico. Also, on the 29th of February, I got the opportunity, along with everyone else here, to attend the donation of the fire engines to the Mexicali Fire Department, to view the new fire engines purchased through Measure H monies, and then the other, the police vehicles that were purchased through another fund. So congratulations to public safety. You're looking good out there. All we got to fix is a firehouse now, and hopefully that'll be on the next part of the agenda. And I want to just direct our city manager to look into working in a spirit of cooperation with Calexico High School, who'll be celebrating 100 years. I believe it's this year in 1912, so I'm not sure if they've done anything, but I know that there's big events throughout the cities in the Imperial County. I believe Imperial had that just recently, and I think Central may have had that, but I'd just like to extend that welcome to the Calexico High School, that we want to work together on bringing good celebration for the city and for the school, because the cities and the school are interdependent and work with one another. So if we could maybe check with Dr. Fregali on that, and I'll mention it to him as well. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Mr. Castro?
No comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Hodge?
Okay. It was an eventful week, and shared some time with Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado at two events, along with Mayor Romero. The one large event that stands out was the tour of the new river with Mr. Macada. As you know, we have the dubious distinction of being the most polluted river in the nation, but we're working on it. And I found that this tour was very informative and educational. It consisted of the local and state and federal officials, and we did observe what progress had been made. And one of the main purposes of the tour was, I have my notes here as to what his title was. Do you remember, Maritza, Mr. Makata? His official title. Mr. Arsenio Mataka, Assistant Secretary for Environmental Justice. Very close, right there with Governor Brown. And one of our main objectives was to impress upon him with this tour of the serious issue of the new river and to gain his support, which he will turn around and communicate that support to Governor Brown. Yeah, on the strategic plan, that's absolutely correct. And as far as we could tell, it appeared very much that we had gained his report, and a report is coming out. So there was a lot involved. We went at different sites. We observed and discussed about adding trash screens at the beginning of the border and a multi-million-dollar treatment plant. We visited what I found very nice was the wetlands. I'd never visited that before, and there are a lot of benefits to the wetlands, biologically and physically reducing pollutants. It's a habitat for fish and a variety of other birds, and it helps increase the quality of our water. So it was very informative, and I want to thank everybody involved. The other event, which I was very proud of, and I want to thank everyone here, their participation, was the Youth Sports Summit. I thought it was very successful, and I was very impressed with especially the dedication of our Mayor Romero. He was there all day, right?
Yes.
And I really respect that dedication. And it was good. And as a teacher, I took some very good ideas of what to do. Just briefly, some exercises in the classroom that can break up the monotony and boredom for our children. Think about it. They sit in those seats 6 hours a day, and they do need some breaks. So it was successful, and I'm looking forward to having that sports event every year. And I talked to one citizen of Calexico, and he's a former counselor, Mr. Gutierrez. I said, what did you think about it? And he said, I thought it was good information for the parents in dealing with the parks and youth sports program. There is one more, I believe. And this one is, I've had two concerned citizens approach me. And this is regarding, actually they came up to, whoa, wait. Councilman Hodge, the water bill, I haven't received it yet. The water bill, I haven't received it yet. And so I said, well, when were you supposed to receive it? And I believe they said late February. And here it was last Saturday in March. So can someone, Nick, or who's in charge of that, respond to the water bill? Is that true?
They started receiving them on Monday.
What?
Yeah.
They started receiving them on Monday.
I got mine on Monday, I thought I was late.
Okay, but is that person wrong? It's late or is it not late?
Typically, they go out at the end of the month. If you will recall, we had an issue that we had to resolve prior to letting them out.
Okay, I understand that. Okay. All right. So that will be corrected then, right? Yes. Okay. All right, because everybody's on a tight budget and...
As long as you pay it, it'll be corrected.
Yeah. He's a mean guy, isn't he? All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado.
Of course, I was also in many of the different events for this past week, and just to add a little more to the sports summit, we were given packets by Sandra Toller's team, and within this packet there was a lot of information, and a part of that information was the team registration forms, which I was hoping that many of the different coaches out there of different leagues might have participated, but I know it was a really busy weekend. My daughter even had a doubleheader that day, so we missed out on a few of those different team managers and team presidents, league presidents, that could really use this information and ensure that we notify them and that they're informed of how the recreation department for the city of Calexico will be organized and managed from here on in. So any of you that might need that missed out on that, please let the staff know, Sandra Toller's department know, and it's a very informative packet. It talks about information required from fingerprinting your coaches, the insurance required to be able to participate, how those fields are going to be shared and used, and who's going to have it when, and all that information. So unfortunately, there wasn't very many, but again, it was a really busy weekend, a very nice weekend. So again, we had a lot of fun at the summit, and I'm hoping to see another summit very soon. Just yesterday, Monday, the mayor and we participated in the swearing of an officer who actually is coming back to the city of Calexico, Officer Paco Cuellar. And that was a really nice event. His family and his friends were there, and other officers, so that was really nice to witness. Within the last couple of weeks, we have had a couple of meetings that were very important to myself and to the city. The first was a meeting with several officials from the county with regard to discussions on a possible alternative plan to build our new port of entry. It was the first of several meetings to come, and we've had, the mayor and I, many discussions about that, and hopefully soon we'll have something to report. The next meeting was a update on the casino, and that meeting we were able to have a representative from the governor's office and really trying to push that project forward. Those are two really big projects for the city of Calexico, so looking forward to more information to provide on that. Today, this morning, I had a discussion with a representative from the Allied Waste Department company with many concerns about the downtown trash issues. I know we talked about that at one point in one of our last meetings, and I asked if we can have a more concentrated meeting with them due to the fact that I personally see, being that I'm in downtown, very severe problems with trash out there, and I know that everyone has to do their part. The business owners, the Allied Waste, and the city, and hopefully we can all fully understand our parts and work together for a cleaner downtown. The last item would be that the mayor and I are continuing to participate in the solvency meetings, which are meetings being held by the school district to see information, understand information of what's going on at the school district, and try to find solutions. There are about 30 members of the community who have been invited to these meetings, and it's positive meetings and looking at a lot of the details of what it is that's happening financially to the district. So far so good. It looks like we're moving forward with ideas and hope that we can avoid a possible takeover. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Again, I'll touch on the inaugural sports summit headed by Director Toller. I see that she's not present. I was hoping that either her, the chairperson of the Recreation Commission, or the vice chair could make a presentation. They're not present. I was hoping to hear which programs did participate. There were quite a few programs that were not there, and it was good that so many participated, but it was not so good that there were still so many out there that did not. Everybody has to remember that the purpose of this is so the City of Calexico, through the Recreation Department, can monitor not only the programs that are out there, but obviously the requests for the fields that need to be tended to. One of the issues that was mentioned right now by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado was in regards to the insurance of the liability with the city. It's something that also we need to look at to see about any insurance to make sure that there's insurance there for the participants for their particular safety, for any medical treatment if they so require it. She touched on the situation with the visit from the governor's office, present were the city manager, herself, myself, county representatives, and of course, more importantly, the tribe, La Manzanita. They believe that the meeting went well, and now it's up to the state representative to report to Governor Brown, as well as we're still waiting for direction from BIA to work with the Secretary of Interior to hopefully sign off on that approval. And again, soon we hope that maybe the subcommittee through former Mayor John Moreno and Councilman Bill Hodge. They come back with a report that things are ongoing. Leap into the new era, public safety, the presentation of the 10 police vehicles and the 2 fire engines. Thank you, Chief Newjar, and able to work with the asset forfeiture funds. And Chief Mercado, congratulations on being able to secure those funds through Measure H. I'm sure that it's a very excellent beginning, but there's still things that, still other things that need to be addressed. And also, it was a special moment to be where the swearing in of the new officer, Jose Duarte. I've known him for some time, and he comes in from years of experience from the PD to Department of Justice and back to the PD.
Cuellar, I think.
Cuellar, yes. Thank you for correcting me. And that's it for now. Thank you. Next is the presentation, 2 proclamations. The first proclamation is in regards to Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez. Some of you know him. If you don't, know that we talk to people around Calexico and Mexicali. He's an icon that's going to be missed forever. I heard the report that, if it's correct, that his son is going to be resuming the radio show. So in that regards, congratulations. That'll be staying within the family. And the, what do I do with it? Okay. Memorializing Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez. Whereas the Calexico City Council believes that it is important that we honor and acknowledge those people who contribute to the community. And whereas the passing of Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez on February 29, 2012 has brought immense sorrow and loss to the people throughout the Mexicali and Calexico communities. And whereas Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez was a proud resident of the city of Mexicali and began his radio broadcast program, Sonorama Deportivo, in 1954, becoming an integral part of the Mexicali and Calexico communities. And whereas the city of Calexico believes Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez was an example of courage, integrity, and loyalty to his audience. And whereas Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez was an icon of the community and the communications industry. And whereas Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez served the residents of the city of Calexico and Imperial Valley throughout his distinguished 58-year career. And whereas Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez was recognized as an exemplary citizen of the state of Baja California, whose legacy will transcend history. And whereas Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez was an example of life who will be remembered by his audience for many years to come. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Calexico hereby expresses its deepest sympathy at the passing of Don Cesar Augusto Hernandez Bermudez, and by this proclamation, memorialize his lifetime of service to the citizens of Calexico. In witness thereof, I hereunto affix my signature, an official seal of the City of Calexico, on the 6th day of March 2012. And I'd like everybody to know that his daughter is here present with us. Thank you. ¿Nos puede dar unas palabras, por favor? No estaba preparado de...
Verbo nunca faltaban palabras.
Sí, go ahead, say it.
Buenas noches. Para mí es un honor estar aquí este día, a pesar de la tristeza que nos embarga a la familia Hernández Gárate por la partida inesperada de mi señor padre. Pero a pesar de eso, como él nos inculcó desde niños, la responsabilidad y el honor al trabajo es lo que nos mantiene enalteciendo su nombre. Y esta noche yo les doy las gracias por reconocer la labor comunitaria que tuvo en esta frontera que para él fue como su segundo hogar, a pesar de haber nacido en Chiapas. Él decía que Mexicali era la ciudad que lo había adoptado por el calor, no de su clima, sino de su gente. Yo les agradezco en nombre de toda mi familia y en el mío propio. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias a ustedes, su familia. Okay, speaking of centennials, we have a Girl Scouts of the USA 100th anniversary proclamation. Whereas Juliet Gordon Lowe founded Girl Scouts of the USA in Savannah, Georgia on March 12, 1912. And whereas Girl Scouting was evolved into America's best leadership development organization for girls. And whereas Girl Scouting has inspired and empowered more than 50 million girls over the last 100 years. And whereas nearly 43,000 current girl and adult Girl Scout members in San Diego and Imperial counties and 2.25 million more members nationwide are celebrating this centennial. And whereas throughout its distinguished history, Girl Scouts has welcomed girls and adults from every background, building in them courage, confidence, character, and a desire to make the world a better place. And whereas Girl Scouts takes an active role in increasing girls' awareness of opportunities in the arts, science, technology, engineering, math, sports, travel, career exploration, and countless other areas that can expand their horizons. And whereas girls develop skills and values through the Girl Scout leadership experience that will serve them throughout their lives so that they may contribute to their communities. And now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Calexico, by virtue of this proclamation, do hereby applaud Girl Scouts' commitment to supporting the development of the girls of San Diego and Imperial counties, and proudly proclaim March 12, 2012 as Girl Scout Day in Calexico. In witness thereof, I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on the 6th day of March 2012. Here present is Claudia. Gotta get the girls in here. Girls in here. You gotta get the girls in there. Okay, let's get behind the girls here in the middle. Así como the Red Sea.
You look pretty, Mayor Romero.
Muchas gracias, Miguel.
Congratulations. Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment? Yes, please do. I want to thank, I'm sure I'm going to leave some people out, but I'll just thank Ben Horton and the other people, and please forgive me, your first name is Claudia, and your last, I've heard good things about your real effort to have the Girl Scouts here become more viable and expand, and so Ben and Claudia and everybody else involved, thank you, because this is a very, very good effort that we're making, and it's important for the children, so thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, for bringing the Girl Scouts and the Cub Scouts
Yes.
back to Calexico and Imperial Valley. Thank you.
I just want to say to my little niece, I can't see her because she's behind there, that I was actually a Girl Scout myself when
Me
I was
too.
little, so look at me now. So just go for whatever it is that you're doing now, because that's excellent for you. It's a beautiful, beautiful group.
It is.
Congratulations.
And Cub Scouts.
Before we go to the consent calendar, thank you for doing that. It reminded me, I want to thank Cristina Rocha for serving as the bridge between the City Council and the Hernandez Bermudez family.
Very good.
So we can get this thing done. Thank you. Consent calendar.
Motion.
Before there's a motion to approve all four, there is a request to get item number 4 pulled. So is there a motion for the other 3?
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion for items 1, 2, and 3 for approval, motion by Mr. Moreno, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado. Please vote. Okay, 5-0. Number 4, approve resolution and authorize Public Works Director / City Engineer to submit applications to request funding under the Regional Surface Transportation Program, RSTP, for 4 Public Works Department projects. Mr. Vincent Cuevas.
My name is Vincent Cuevas. I'm on the Police Commission, but I also feel safety is a priority that we need to really address. And my concern is that much of the rehabilitating Second Street for the eastern entrance is from Rivera to,
I think it's Imperial Avenue.
Rivera on Second Street to all the way. Well, reading about it, I was glad to get this information. I want to thank Mr. Servine. It will increase safety by having smooth driving conditions. It will increase, visual aesthetics will be created by having a new resurfaced road.
Mr. Cuevas, can you hold on a second until?
Okay. The benefits will be having a safer street for pedestrian and vehicular traffic. I can't understand the prioritizing of the street resurfacing when there are streets such as V.V. Williams that probably needs it more than this street, the application number 3. I looked at it and it forsook me that if you could ask anyone to go on a Saturday after 11 o'clock or a Sunday after 11 o'clock and drive through V.V. Williams, you'll be astounded by what was already mentioned by the previous speakers concerning the safety. So until I guess somebody dies or something else happens, nothing will be ever done for helping V.V. Williams. I think I'd like to know how you come to the conclusion that these 4 streets need to be resurfaced before V.V. Williams. And that's my question.
I'll introduce the subject matter, and then maybe the city engineer can give you more detail. But the qualifications for this particular application, as the name on there stipulates, it's a regional surface transportation program. So the funds are awarded and prioritized based on their regional impact. And so you'll see in these streets that we have here, our applications tie them into being regional type of road surfaces, which tie into, for example, we've got one here on Cole, and that's between SR 111 and ML King. We tie it in the application to Highway 111, which is a regional type of transportation corridor. We also have the downtown, which we tie it into the corridor for 2nd Street, which is the port of entry and the movement of border goods back and forth. Then we have the 2nd Street rehabilitation, again, the same situation there, where we tie it into a regionalness of the port of entries. And then we have the bike facilities project, which again ties into the international type of movement of goods back and forth. So you'll notice that these projects are based on the fact that they're tied into regional type systems, and that's how you get your point system. So it wouldn't do us any good to put in Ollie Street or something like that that isn't tied into a regional type of circulation, because we wouldn't get the points. And obviously it doesn't do us any good. So that's the only reason, and the city engineer can give you more detail. But the bottom underlying reason why the streets were picked was because we need to make the argument that they tie into regional type surface transportation systems.
Doesn't State Route 98 and V.V. Williams intersect? Would that be tying in, or what do you just define as tying in?
Well, the state gives us criteria for qualifying those streets, and V.V. Williams does not fit that qualification. If we could, we'd add it to this project. It is a short section, but we're trying to add it through other means, which is our 5-year plan. If we don't apply for these funds, then we lose these funds for the next 5 years. So it's important that we try to acquire. It's not guaranteed that we're even going to get this.
Right.
It's a toss-up.
So basically the argument for the surfacing of these streets is that they tie into a regional route as far as transportation?
Correct.
Okay. And V. Williams does not. Is it because of the length? Is it because it's not a main arterial path through the city?
The latter.
Okay, it's not a main arterial path through the city.
Correct.
Much like 2nd Street goes right across and in
Cesar,
that direction.
Cesar Chavez and some other streets, yes.
There's going to be, Cesar Chavez is going to be improved sometime in the near future.
Yes.
Would V.V. Williams get any benefit of it, since it's almost like a form of continuation?
There's going to be some improvements there as a result of the POE going in there and the improvements that are required because of the POE dumping a lot of traffic on Cesar Chavez. So the intersection at Highway 98, Cesar Chavez, is going to be redesigned. It's going to be tied in and synchronized with some lights, so there will be some traffic control in that intersection.
If Cesar Chavez, well, with Cesar Chavez being the primary path to the port of entry to and from, you do understand that V.V. Williams is going to increase in traffic, because some people are going to drive on Cole Road and they come down V.V. Williams with that synchronization of that traffic light.
That is true, and it was considered in the traffic study already.
Okay, so it could receive some benefits from it.
It will receive some benefits.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hodge? Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something?
Yes. Will the city of Calexico be the primary agency in charge of the redesign? Since there do exist so many local concerns for what's going to happen in this area, will the city of Calexico be the primary agency in charge of these new changes?
That's Caltrans, isn't it?
Well, are we talking about V.V. Williams or Cesar
Well,
Chavez? Or?
just the everything that's going
intersection.
to change, the Cesar Chavez change, the 98 change, all that's going to be brought on because of a new port of entry.
Yes, we're in the driver's seat, essentially. We're receiving funds from Federal Highway Administration, Caltrans, and local...
ICTC?
ICTC, which is organizing this whole thing. Mr. Hodge and I sit in various committees. Oscar sits in other committees too. I sit on the TAC as well. So we have opportunities where we apply for these grants, and we're competing, remember, with the whole valley, including other little cities. So some cities have actually lost out by not applying for this. But to answer your question, yes, we are going to be in the driver's seat to control this intersection, Cesar Chavez, and the domino effect it has to the outlying streets.
Is it true that the Cesar Chavez will be the new extension of Highway 111 instead of
Yes.
Imperial Avenue?
Yes.
So wouldn't it, Caltrans have, you might say, first authority over it and how it's constructed, but with feedback from the city of Calexico?
I'm not sure how that's going to transfer as far as...
Because it's going to go Highway 111, then 98,
Right.
and then 111, but it's going to be named Cesar Chavez.
True. Right now, Imperial, although it's under Caltrans, Caltrans and the city of Calexico have a lot of joint responsibility. For example, we have a... Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say joint responsibility, but did it not put an island on the Imperial Avenue between 5th and 2nd that City of Calexico had basically no input in it?
I don't know the history.
Thank you, yeah. Anyway.
That was before his time.
Oh, here comes the chief.
Here comes the chief.
History.
History.
I'm sorry, that is not the case. Unfortunately, Mark Martinez, he actually was the one in charge of that, and he is actually the one that had the islands put in. So it was actually done by the city of Calexico and not by anyone else.
That's not what you said, I heard Mark. Mariano Martinez was referred to as Mart.
Mark.
Okay, thank
He
you.
is the one.
You are, that's history, yes. That's a long time ago.
But he's the one that worked to have that put in. And the reason is because of the various intersections, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. By eliminating those intersections and putting in the island, it reduced the traffic just of basically northbound and southbound, and it stopped a lot of accidents.
Well, there was a lot of complaints by some of the merchants that were there, and if I recall correctly, they were informed that we had very little input what Caltrans was deciding to do. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Servine.
Must have been the answer at the time.
Mr. Servine, I understand and accept the explanations of why, under the Regional Surface Transportation Program, why V.V. Williams is not a priority. But I think maybe we could help answer the concerns of these citizens today. What program, what plan, what grant could we implement that will take care of their issues, their concerns on V.V. Williams?
Yes, and I gave my card to the first speaker up here, and hopefully I'll be talking to her later on. But more importantly, back to Vivi Williams, we have a different situation there. We have Santo Tomas. We have some problems there. We're trying to coordinate with them to cooperate with us, and because even if we had the money to pave the street, if anything, it would actually encourage people speeding up that street. So we're not solving the problem. To solve the problem, there's more to this puzzle than just paving
It has
the street.
multiple problems, right?
Yes, it does.
But one problem is the streets.
Definitely.
So we could do something about that, right?
Yes, we could. But I don't want to create another problem solving one.
But would this fall under the 5-year plan? Is it part of
Yes.
the 5-year plan?
Yes.
And that's what they need to do, is put their heads together and come up with a plan on how to improve some of these streets. That would be another item on the...
Well, we need to keep keep them informed, everybody informed, and how we're going along with this.
Yeah, and I think,
Mr. Peroni, you didn't submit a sheet, and this is just council discussion.
There's ways of qualifying it, because it ties in Cold Road, and it ties in to Highway 98.
Well, that's what you're talking about V.V. Williams.
Yeah, but they only mention Highway 98. Now, if you bring in Cold Road, it gives it more to qualify it, so I think you need to consider it, because it goes across. So if you're just talking about Highway 98, now you have to consider that it ties in the Cold Road.
Mr. Servina, can you bring in this issue soon to the next, another council meeting, since this is not the topic at this time?
sure, I could.
Please?
I will.
And see what options you can bring in, including the comments by Mr. Peroni.
Will do. Thank you.
Is any more questions by the council regarding this item on the agenda?
I just have a clarification. The gentleman that
Mr. Cuevas.
Mr. Cuevas was discussing, that is what you're asking again?
Right, but he's asking about V.V. Williams, but this is something else. And what he needs an answer for V.V. Williams, and Mr. Servin and Mr. Rodriguez can work on that and bring it back to a future council meeting. That's what you're seeking
It's
for, Mr.
basically-
Cuevas?
It's
Thank you.
basically the same thing. Okay.
All right, consensus of the council?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, motion by approved, by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. Okay, 5-0, thank you. All right, general fund, new business, 5 and 5A. Number 5, consideration of a resolution amending the city council annual rotation policy. It would be more appropriate for future council organizations to elections. Mr. Moreno, you asked for this on the agenda.
Yes, being the fact that our elections are in November, and I would venture to say that the mayor rotation policy should be the month immediately following that, in this case, December. And that way we align ourselves with many public agencies in the County of Imperial. So motion to approve this item.
Is there a second?
Before you move forward, you have a couple of options, so
Okay.
you're moving forward with which option?
We have options? I'm not feeling well today.
Are you moving forward with the resolution? Is that the option you're moving forward with? There's 1, 2, and 3.
Why do you make it difficult?
Take one.
Mr. City Manager, he's hurting and you're asking him to talk.
I believe item 1 would be what you just stated, that you want the mayor rotation to be in
In line.
December, which is right after the essentially the meeting when election results are declared.
But we have to terminate the current policy, don't we?
Yes, but if you took option 1, you'd be approving a new policy, which the attached resolution and the amended policy are, they're under option 1.
Okay, motion for option 1.
Motion for option 1 by Mr. Moreno,
Second.
second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. Passes unanimously, 5-0. We'll go to number 5A, appointment by Council Member Luis Castro to the Financial Advisory Board. Mr. Castro.
Yes, I would like to appoint for the Financial Advisory Committee Board to Cynthia Retaña. Is Cynthia Retaña?
Is she present?
Yeah, she's present. And also, I think these board meetings are every third Thursday of the month.
Mr. Hargrave is a member of the Financial Advisory Group.
Third Monday.
Third Monday.
Every third Monday of the month. Okay, at what time? 6:30.
Who sends did she submit in the,
Application.
yes.
Well, I believe she needs to stop by the executive secretary to the city of CLXC and fill the application. I asked for this commission a month ago. I believe that position was open.
Yes, it was. It is.
It is, right?
For you, right, for your
Right.
appointment.
So I believe she needs to stop by the city hall.
Yes, you can stop by with the,
Eric, Erica or-
is it with Ronnie?
With Ronnie or Gabby.
Okay, Veronica Luna or Gabi Garcia, and they have an application as a potential commissioner, if you can please complete it. This way, when they send out emails or need to communicate with you, they know how to get a hold of you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for accept that commission.
All right. Enterprise Fund consent calendar, only one item is, since it's a consent calendar, is there a motion to approve the one item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. Okay, 5-0. Thank you. All right. Public hearings. Do we open it for public hearings, or you have a report to give?
I'll go ahead and give the report before you open the public hearing. This is item
7?
7. It's a public hearing on an interim ordinance extending an urgency measure prohibiting off-site display and sale of automobiles. Just as background, the council, at its meeting on January 24th, 2012, adopted an initial 45-day moratorium on the off-site sale and display of automobiles in the city in order to study whether the activity should be permitted or banned within the city. The initial 45-day period for the moratorium will expire on March 9th, 2012. Therefore, if council wishes to extend the moratorium at this time, then the council would have to act tonight to approve this ordinance. If the council does extend the moratorium, city staff anticipates taking additional measures such as meeting with interested stakeholders on the issue, and from the legal side, researching laws and potential ways to amend the zoning code to either prohibit or permit this. The attached ordinance would extend the moratorium for an additional 10 months and 15 days, and that's pursuant to state law that allows for these interim zoning or urgency ordinances. If council wishes to adopt this tonight, it requires a 4/5 vote because it is an interim urgency measure. And I just want to point out that in the attached ordinance that council is considering before it tonight, all of the blanks in the attached ordinance should be filled in with the ordinance number 2012-1139, and that's actually the one that was approved by council on January 24th. So if you're going to be making a motion to approve the ordinance, it would have ordinance number 2012-1139 filled in and every single blank within the document. So staff recommends at this time council open the public hearing, receive comments, and if the council desires, go ahead and approve this interim urgency ordinance so that it extends it out until January of 2013.
Thank you. Okay, for public hearing, we'll now open at 7:53 for the interim ordinance extending the urgency measure prohibiting outside display and sale of automobiles. All those against this item, please come forward. There is no one coming forward to speak against it. Is anybody present here that wishes to come forward and speak in favor of it? There is no one coming forward to speak in favor of it, so we'll close that part of the public hearing. 7:54. Consensus of the council?
I would motion to extend the moratorium till January of 2013, so we can have a good look at the ordinance to allow either use or non-use of this particular item.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Moreno, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado. Please vote. 5-0, so it passes since it required a 4/5 vote.
And Mr.
Correct,
Mayor,
Attorney?
I just need, yes, and I need to read the title of the ordinance. It's an interim ordinance extending an urgency measure prohibiting off-site display and sale of automobiles in the city for an additional 10 months and 15 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, number 8. Marijuana and ordinance adding Chapter 5.96, medical marijuana distribution facilities, and Article 10, medical marijuana distribution facilities, to Chapter 11, to Title 17 of the Calexico Municipal Code pertaining to medical marijuana distribution facilities. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a public hearing for the council tonight. And background information, going back to May 18th of 2010, the council passed an interim urgency ordinance which put a moratorium on the opening of medical marijuana distribution facilities in the city of Calexico. I believe that was prompted because there was people interested in that idea at the time. This council has subsequently adopted ordinances extending the moratorium, and under the state law that allows you to put interim moratoriums in place, they only can be a maximum of 2 years. So your moratorium is set to expire on or about May 12th, 2012. This matter has been brought back to the council many times during the moratorium period to get council's feedback and also to receive public input on this issue. The last meeting that the council gave direction was on August 16th. The council, actually 2011, the council gave direction to prepare an ordinance to ban medical marijuana facilities in town. And staff drafted that and brought it back to council on December 6, 2011. At that time, council passed a resolution requesting the Planning Commission study the proposed ordinance because as a zoning ordinance, the proper process is to go to the Planning Commission first for consideration and then come back to the City Council. So the matter was taken to Planning Commission in January of 2012, and Planning Commission held a public hearing. They considered the ordinance, and they approved a resolution that recommended that council approve the attached ordinance, which again is an ordinance to ban medical marijuana facilities in the city. At this point in the process, the ordinance is here for council to do the first reading tonight, and the second reading would occur at the next meeting if council were in favor of approving the ordinance tonight, and then it takes 30 days to go into effect, which would all transpire before May 12th when the moratorium expires, so that council will then have an ordinance in place banning medical marijuana facilities. The legal risks have pretty much been the same throughout this 2-year process in that there is a legal risk to every approach the council could consider on this matter, whether you consider a ban, whether you consider approving regulations to allow them, or whether you just let the moratorium expire and rely on your existing zoning code, which does not have a clear doesn't clearly address medical marijuana dispensaries. So I believe that many cities throughout the state of California have struggled with this issue ever since medical marijuana was allowed in the state of California. I believe at least 100 cities have adopted similar bans, and I think in Imperial County, the only city that allows medical marijuana dispensaries is the city of El Centro. And that does factor into Calexico's decision to ban it, because residents of Calexico can easily go to El Centro and still get medical marijuana from dispensaries that are legally authorized in the city of El Centro. As well as the attached ordinance that's drafted, it does not prevent an individual who is allowed to possess and use medical marijuana. It doesn't prevent them from growing the marijuana they need for themselves. It doesn't prevent a primary caregiver who is authorized for that person to grow marijuana or get marijuana, say, from El Centro, and then provide it to the person they're caring for here in Calexico. It doesn't prohibit that. It prohibits large-scale dispensaries from opening up in the city of Calexico. As I mentioned, council had already given direction to follow this approach, and at this point, because the law is still unclear, there is no California Supreme Court decision that prohibits the city from taking this action, and federal law still prohibits marijuana, medical or otherwise. Federal law still prohibits it, and recently, the federal law, or the federal officials had taken a standoff approach before, but in the last year, they have decided to be more involved and are actually cracking down on landlords who allow dispensaries in their facilities. And there's even the potential that letters have been issued that cities that allow medical marijuana facilities can somehow be determined to be involved in the criminal process of, under federal law, of allowing medical marijuana dispensing to go on. So at this point in the process, staff recommends this approach. Can't say that this is always going to be the case, because if a California Supreme Court case comes out otherwise, then this city, as well as numerous other cities throughout the state of California, will have to reassess their approach. I think we've heard very minimal public comment on this issue, because the council has held various public hearings, and I think I can only remember one hearing where 2 individuals appeared, and neither one of them were Calexico residents. So at this point, staff would recommend that council open the public hearing, take public comments, and then consider and approve the first reading by title only of this ordinance. The police chief is here in case the council has any questions, and that's it for the staff report at this point.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing on this item. It is now 8:01. Anyone not in favor of passing this ordinance, please step forward.
The ordinance is to ban.
Yes. There is no one coming forward to speak against this ordinance. All those in favor that want to speak in favor of this ordinance, please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Jim Nugent here. I know you would expect that your police chief obviously is going to come out and talk to you about this, but I do want you to remember that I'm also a community member and a father, and this means a lot more than just the marijuana dispensary issue. There's a lot more going on here than just what we're talking about here. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world with the difference that we're having, along with medical marijuana. The dispensaries itself is what's at issue, and just exactly what Ms. Lyons said is we're not legalizing marijuana. We're not legalizing marijuana. That has nothing to do with it. State law had already been passed, but since 1996, when this thing happened, this thing is still very convoluted. It's just now going to the Supreme Court, because they don't even know whether cities even have the right to regulate it. The federal government says that if a city does regulate it, then basically you would be co-conspirators in the crime of furnishing marijuana. Every situation that we've had, we have a couple of illegal ones that operate in the county, and we've actually prosecuted cases against them because they deliver to whoever. There is no discretion. There is no abiding by the law or following the ordinance as it is in place. I'm not talking about the medical marijuana in itself, but I'm talking about this dispensary issue is a scam. There's no way to prohibit it's just like I'm not saying it derogatory, but just like the liquor stores or the gas stations that sell alcohol. I mean, they try real hard to make sure that alcohol doesn't get into the hands of kids, but it still does. And being in our situation where we are right on the border, it's just one more issue of another type of drug or another availability getting into the hands of our kids. For those of you who went to the Obeso's funeral of the Caltrans worker that was killed on Interstate 8, he was killed by a drunk driver that was driving under the influence of marijuana. Marijuana, once it's in your system, it's not like alcohol where within a certain number of hours it actually leaves your system. You're talking about something that's fat soluble and even can be detected in your system up to 30 days later. So it's not a simple type of drug. But I think it's very important to understand that the federal government is getting very serious, and they are talking about actually prosecuting right down to the local level of us for not following federal law. So I would ask you that if you would please to vote in favor of the ban and save the citizens and myself a lot of trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Newjar. Yes, Mr. Ward. In favor of?
Yes, in favor of. I just want to concur with what the chief said, and I think if you were in government classes, federal law supersedes any law, either state or local. The federal law says it's against the law. Real simple. It's a no-brainer. Federal law supersedes anything that the state, the municipal, or county can come up with. So we're not talking about reinventing the machinery to give somebody the ability to have access. We're just saying that federal law, as it stands right now, it is the law of the land. Simple. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I did forget one thing, and I wanted to correct. Before we spoke tonight, I wanted to make sure, so I called the city of El Centro. And the city of El Centro chose, even after they had approved it, they have chosen not to have dispensaries.
They had one or two dispensaries. What are
They
you
had
doing?
two, but they are closed.
They've been closed.
So just so you know, for the same reason, they have chosen not to do it.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else here in favor of the ordinance?
Good evening. Again, my name is Jessica Lopez, and I'm in favor for banning dispensaries. Typically, our younger generation is always, on the other side of this issue, but as a concerned mother, as a teacher in our community, I think that it's important that we try and alleviate some of the issues surrounding drugs in our area instead of bringing more issues upon ourselves, more issues to bring upon the city on taking the responsibility of these dispensaries, which we will have to take responsibility for their actions when down the line, if they choose not to follow certain rules and guidelines, the city of Calexico would be held liable for that, and I don't think that we need any more problems in our city. I think dispensaries make it, send the wrong message to our children. I know that many people use marijuana dispensaries because they have medical cards to alleviate some of the pain that comes with maybe cancer and other issues. However, it still sends a message to our youth that it's okay for some people to go against a law that is federal, stands in the federal courts, and I think that it's only logical that Calexico follow the federal law and not allow any of these dispensaries to come into our community. Thank you.
Anybody else that wishes to come forward to speak in favor of the ordinance? There is no one, so we'll close the public hearing at 8:09. What's the consensus of the council?
Motion to approve ordinance on banning dispensaries.
Okay, motion by Mr. Moreno and second by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, before
yes.
the vote, I just noticed two typographical issues that I want to address so that council will be approving it with this. Page 6 of the ordinance, section 5, there's a blank on an ordinance number, and that's the prior moratorium that council approved. So staff will administratively put that ordinance number in. And also on page 6, it shows that the council will consider the second reading of this on March 20th, and I believe there may be, that date may get canceled, and so we will fill that in with the adjourned regular meeting date that the council is going to set forth tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. Moreno, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, there was those two changes noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second, and Mrs. Hurtado? Second. Please vote.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Hodge.
Don't jump.
You were going to have some visitors.
Okay. Green is yes.
And Mr. Mayor, I will read the title of the ordinance.
Passes 5-0. Yes, City Attorney, go ahead.
It's an ordinance adding Chapter 5.96, Medical Marijuana Distribution Facilities, and Article 10, medical marijuana distribution facilities to Chapter 17.11 of Title 17 of the Calexico Municipal Code pertaining to medical marijuana distribution facilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to public hearing number 9, uniform application number 2011-03 for Palazzo Specific Plan Project, including environmental impact report, SCH number 2007-041018. Annexation, general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative subdivision map. City Manager Rodriguez, you want to elaborate on this?
Our consultant will go ahead and address this issue.
Thank you, City Manager. Mr. Mayor, Madam Attorney, members of the City Council. As indicated, the application for 2011-03 is for the Palazzo Specific Plan. There are 6 entitlement applications associated with the project. There's the environmental impact report, which was prepared by HDR consultants. They will be up in a minute. I will introduce them to go over some of the specifics regarding that. But the EIR has been processed and provides the environmental clearance for the project. There's the annexation to allow for the project site to incorporate into the, or annex into the city corporate boundary. The general plan amendment to bring the project site into the city corporate boundary and to identify the general plan land use as specific plan area. The zone change, the pre-zone of the property to pre-zone it to specific plan. There's the specific plan document to implement the policies, the design guidelines, development standards for the project, and also the tentative tract map to subdivide the project site into the separate parcels to allow for the residential uses that are being proposed with the project. The project site is located on the north side of Jasper within the city sphere of influence. It's surrounded by Jasper Road to the north. There is the Santa Fe subdivision proposal to the to the east. There is the Central Main Canal to the south and the concrete canal boundary to the west. Access to the project site will be off of Meadows Road as well as Bonita Road. The project specific plan ultimately proposes to construct 1,207 residential units, park space, open areas, pedestrian linkages, mixed-use village, as well as the appropriate infrastructure, streets and improvements for the project. Also, a landscape retention basin is proposed along the north side of the site boundary. Staff has reviewed the project, has reviewed the specific plan, recommends approval. The project was presented to the Planning Commission on December 12th of 2011, in which the Planning Commission has recommended approval to the City Council as well. At this point, I would like to introduce a representative from the applicant's team to go through a PowerPoint presentation for you regarding the specific plan, and then that will be followed by a representative from HDR to go over the environmental as well. City staff is here to answer any questions that the council may have, and like I said, I will defer that to them. I know one of the items that the representative would like to identify is regarding condition number 9 within the tentative track map resolution. They're proposing about the 5th line down within the condition itself to read conditions and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council in respect of such final map shall either be installed or one or more subdivision. Ms. Lyon, did you
Where
get
is
that?
condition 9?
It's within the track map resolution. I'm sorry, I don't have the page number.
It is, it's attachment 5F. At least that's how it is in my agenda.
It would be on page 4 of that attachment.
5F, okay. Correct. The back. Number 9.
Correct, on page 4.
Where it starts, except as otherwise provided?
Correct, yes. About the 5th line down, specified in these conditions and approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council in respect of such final map shall either be installed.
Okay, it shall be, either be installed, and was it that you're correcting?
Well, their request is that the language read, conditions and approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council in respect of such final map.
In respect of such. And which is the portion that you want us to line up?
Oh,
I
I'm
think they
sorry.
just want words added in.
Correct.
Oh, okay, just include it in there. Okay. All right, thank you.
That's what I was looking at.
We're going through the presentation first, correct?
I'm sorry?
We're going through the presentation first.
Correct. I was just informed that the environmental consultant will do their presentation first, followed by the applicant.
Good evening. I'm Hillary Bird with HDR Engineering in San Diego. I prepared the environmental impact report for the Palazzo specific plan. Can you go to the next slide? Here's a brief overview of sort of how the environmental process went. The project started, a good 5 years ago in 2007. And the city determined that an environmental impact report needed to be prepared for the project. So a notice of preparation was sent out in April of 2007 and circulated for 30 days for public comment and agency comment. Community workshops and scoping sessions were held during that time in May 3rd for more public involvement and public comment and agency coordination and comment. The draft EIR was sent out for public review in May 2007. For 45 days. And then we received comment letters, responded to those comments, and prepared the final impact report. We took it to the Planning Commission, and they recommended approval and certification of the final EIR in December of 2011. There were some issue areas with the project. There was a significant and unavoidable impact with regards to future transportation cumulative impacts, future 2035. That we could not mitigate below a level of significance. Therefore, it's unavoidable. We did have some issue areas that were considered significant, but we were able to mitigate them to a below significant level. They were in regards to agriculture, air quality, biological resources, cultural and paleontological resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, noise, transportation and circulation, and water quality. The other items were considered less than significant and didn't require mitigation were aesthetics, land use and planning, mineral and geothermal resources, population and housing, recreation, utilities and service systems, and hydrology. And we'll just quickly go through the significant impacts. As you can see that the transportation future 2035 cumulative impacts were unmitigated. Future build-out of the city, per the general plan, will result in a level of service D at the following intersections: State Route 111 South and Jasper Road, State Route 111 North and Jasper Road, Jasper, Mega Park, and Las Ventanas, and Jasper Road and Rockwood Avenue. While the project does mitigate its fair share of the impact, the intersection will still maintain an unacceptable level of service. Therefore, it's an unavoidable impact, and a statement of overriding considerations is required. The items that were mitigated to below a level of significance were agricultural resources, the potential direct and cumulative impacts with regards to conversion of agricultural land was mitigated through either the procurement of agricultural conservation easements on a one-to-one basis for the entire project area of similar quality farmland outside the path of development, or they could purchase an agricultural easement, and I think they've chosen this option. Direct impacts to the Imperial Irrigation District drains and canals were mitigated through the coordination with IID for encroachment, preparation, and implementation of irrigation abandonment plans that IID would approve to abandon those areas, and the preparation and implementation of stormwater discharge plan in accordance with the IID standards. These impacts were mitigated to less than significant. Air quality and global climate change. There would be a temporary increase in criteria pollutants, in particular the PM10 and the PM2.5s during construction and earth-moving activities. These are mitigated through the dust control measures in compliance with Rule 800 through Rule 806 of the Air Pollution Control District's Regulation 8. The increased level of criteria pollutants, PM10s and ROGs, have to do with operational impacts as well, and these were mitigated through best available control measures consistent with the intent of AB 32 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then the increased levels of volatile organic compounds. These are usually associated with architectural coatings, paints, and things like that, building materials, and they're mitigated through compliance with the Air Pollution Control District's Rule 424, use of reduced VOC paint and architectural coatings. We determined these would be less than significant with these mitigations. Biological resources. There were direct and cumulative impacts to burrowing owls, migratory birds, and raptors, which have been mitigated through pre-construction surveys and avoidance measures, and they were determined to be less than significant with those measures. Cultural and paleontological resources. Although no resources were identified on the project site during these surveys, there is a potential for buried resources that could be uncovered during construction activities. So there will be a monitor on site as part of the mitigation. In case something is uncovered, construction can halt until they determine the resource and if it's considered significant. We've reduced that to a less than significant with the monitor on site. Geology and soils. The soils at the project site have a liquefaction potential. They also have a shrink swell potential. And then the past cattle feed and lot activities and erosion could cause problems. So these are mitigated through site design and preparation, foundation, seismic design, and materials through the recommendations in the geotechnical and soils report, mitigated to a less than significant impact. Hazards and hazardous materials. Demolition of some buildings that are on site could have asbestos in them because they're older than 50 years. So they're considered potential issues with asbestos and lead-based paints, which would be mitigated through the testing of those buildings before demolition and abatement if it's found to have asbestos and lead-based paint. Impacts with the removal of the septic tank and the leach field associated with the existing residents would be mitigated through the closure, removal, and cleanup of the septic tank and leach field and the cistern. These impacts would be less than significant with those mitigations. Noise impacts. There could be some noise issues with regards to construction, but then also with the architectural treatments, or excuse me, would be mitigated through the architectural treatments, dual pane windows, insulation, and ventilation, and then verification of interior and exterior noise levels. So these noise issues are associated with existing vehicular traffic. And with those architectural treatments, that reduces the impact to a level of below significance. Traffic, as I mentioned, there were some traffic issues, one being unmitigatable. The traffic project impacts, the ingress and egress, would be mitigated through roadway improvements to Jasper Road, Meadows Road, and Bonita Road. Those are the direct project impacts. Direct project impacts at intersections would be mitigated through the improvements to State Route 111. The existing Plus project in the Phase 1 impacts to 3 segments and 4 intersections would be mitigated through the payment of fair share impact fees that would go into the fund for improving those segments and intersections. And then the year 2015 impacts, which are cumulative impacts, there would be impacts to 4 roadway segments and 7 intersections, again mitigated through the payment of fair share impact fees. The year 2025 impacts are cumulative impacts at 2 intersections, and again, the applicant would be required to pay their fair share of impact fees. The year 2035 impacts, cumulative, the impacts to the 4 intersections I mentioned earlier, payment of the fair share impact fees, but those impacts would not be able to be reduced to a level below significance, therefore it's unavoidable in the year 2035. Water quality, there could be some potential impacts to water quality during construction and operation, construction with erosion, operation with runoff of urban runoff, preparation of project-specific final hydrology reports, and a stormwater pollution prevention plan would mitigate those to a level below significance. And again, these are just the less than significant impacts that did not require mitigation. Project results in significant unmitigated impacts to the 4 intersections I mentioned previously. All the other impacts were mitigated to below a level of significance, and a findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations are required for the project. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Is there going to be another one, Rick? Chris? Okay.
I would be more than happy to wait until the comment time.
Oh, go ahead.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council, City Attorney and City Manager. My name is George Garcia with Development Design Engineering, representing the applicant. My address is 1065 State Street in El Centro. The applicant cannot be with us tonight. Unfortunately, they encountered some severe weather on the way down here, with storm and sand, so they were not able to be present. And they asked that I read a short statement on their behalf. Says we cannot be with the city this evening. After many years of processing this project, it is now coming before City Council for consideration. after receiving a 5-0 recommendation from the Planning Commission. We were on the way to Calexico to attend the hearing when severe winds cut the visibility on the highway to zero and made driving unsafe and nearly impossible. We regret that we were not able to be in attendance. We are extremely proud of our project. We believe it incorporates an exciting design with a mix of desirable product, allowing Calexico residents the ability to have affordable housing within a planned community lifestyle. We wish to take this opportunity to thank Mark Vasquez and his staff for steering this project over the last few years through the Planning Commission and now the City Council. He and his staff have been a pleasure to work with, and we also appreciate the efforts of Jennifer Lyons and Nick Servine, as well as the tremendous assistance from consultant Kurt Corey and the city EIR consultant Hillary Bird. Thank you for considering our project. We are strong supporters and believers in the city of Calexico and are honored by the opportunity to work with and be part of the city. Okay. We have a very, very short presentation on the specific plan. I won't take more than probably 2 to 3 minutes. Palazzo is a 165-acre project south of Jasper Road, as north of the Central Main Canal and east of Meadows Road. It is within the current sphere of influence, and the community provides 0 lot line units, multifamily units, that includes 4 and 6-plex apartments, a large community park, a mixed-use area, and other amenities for future residents. The mixed-use area will consist of commercial and retail space, and there may be apartments above. The mixed use is located in the center of the community next to the park. All residential zones are medium to high density, ranging from 7.4 units per acre to 18 units per acre. Because of the 19-acre community park and 13 acres of retention basin, the overall density of the project is approximately 7.33 units per acre. There is an overlay for a proposed Catholic church that's about 10 acres, and that would reduce the total residential units by about 87 units, and the density to 6.81 units per acre, if this option is taken. There are 4 access points, 2 off of Meadows Road and 2 off of the future Bonita Road. Both Bonita and Meadows Road intersect with Jasper at the north end of the project. This is the land use without the church overlay. There are 397 units multifamily, 256 units of 6-plexes, 165 units of 4-plex homes, 276 0-lot line duplexes, and then 113 units in the mixed village. Commercial is a maximum of 150 square feet within the mixed use village. There are a total of 19.31 acres of parks and 13.14 acres of retention basin. Total count is 1,207 residential units. Now, with the church overlay, the multifamily numbers are 340, 256 sixplexes, 165 townhomes, 246 zero-lot line single-family homes, and still same number of residential units in the mixed-use village. And again, commercial, it's the same, maximum of 150 square feet, 150,000 square feet. The acreages on both the park and the retention basin do not change. This shows where the proposed or church overlay area is. As you can see, it affects the zero lot line, single-family homes, and the multifamily. And that would be near the intersection of Meadows Road and Jasper. This is the overall conceptual landscape, what it would possibly look like. You see the large community park in the center, the multi-homes, multi-family homes and apartments, the fourplexes and sixplexes, as well as the along Meadows and Bonita Road would be the single zero lot line family homes. This is an example of what the layout could look like for the multifamily areas. Again, this is a close-up with a conceptual of what the buildings might look like. Sixplex residential, there's essentially the equivalent of a 6-unit apartment complex or townhomes. And again, potential layout within those areas and the architectural renderings at the bottom. Fourplex residential, same concept, except for 4 units. Zero lot line, that's when you have one building that straddles the lot line. Typically attached, there is an air gap, and it's just a more efficient way of land use for smaller homes, for people that don't really want a large home. It certainly makes it more affordable. The mixed-use area, it's a combination of retail and apartments up above. It's quite common in many other larger cities. It makes the commercial area more vibrant, and it also allows for a continual use.
This is the commercial buildings here?
Yes. And the conceptual of the community park with potential amenities that could be accommodated within, some baseball parks, tennis courts, and other, there's a tot lot that could be there, basketball courts. And the retention basin, the main retention basin are all along Jasper Road. Primary reason for this is that all the land slopes northward, and it's a natural place, and it drains there naturally. That saves a lot of money, and it's just more efficient design. Next slide, please. And here's the location. As Kurt Corey said, it's up in the sphere of influence. To the east of it is the Rancho Santa Fe. To the west is the Estrella subdivision, which was approved several years ago. To the west of that is a project that came before the city a long time ago, the Mega Park, and I believe that that's kind of on its way back. Next slide. And these are projects that have been proposed along what became very, very well known here in the city as the Jasper Corridor. You see location of the casino location, the Mega Park, Estrella, Palazzo, and Santa Fe. And these are all projects all along Jasper. And there was a lot of planning in terms of circulation what the traffic engineers and the city engineers wanted was to keep as much of the traffic internally and off of Jasper Road. So all the surrounding projects had connecting streets. There were secondary arterials to carry that traffic flow within the project, from one project all the way from Highway 111 over to Bowker Road, and keep as much of that traffic off of Jasper. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Mr.
Good
Moreno.
afternoon. I want to congratulate you on a great presentation, also.
Mr. Thank you. May I have some question as a citizen?
Oh, yes, we'll go to you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Moreno, go on, please continue.
Why was it, why did it take 4 years for this to come into fruition? Was that because of the economic downturn, or was that because of other extenuating circumstances?
There were a lot of projects when this project first came on. There were a lot of projects that were coming on board at the time, and it became very evident that there was a need to plan all these projects together.
So you're working in conjunction with the other subdivisions?
In terms of, yes, we did collaborate in terms of road design, connectability between one project and the next. It just seemed the most logical approach. And yes, the economic downturn did slow this project down quite a bit.
Is that a reason why there wasn't any single-family dwelling lots? I didn't see any, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the minimum square lots are 60 feet by 100 feet?
Yes, and this is a specific plan project, and a specific plan allows for some alternate densities and land uses that are not available through the regular zoning ordinance. The zero lot line projects are single-family homes. That all those are the ones that border along Meadows Road and Bonita Road.
But aren't they like duplexes?
Yes,
But they're still on one lot?
they're on 2 lots.
There are 2 lots?
Yes, zero lot line. The buildings are built close to each other, and there's an air gap. Even though from the outside it looks like it's all one building, but there's an air gap.
In this
And
community, we've have several areas where the buildings or the dwellings are pretty close together, and we have a lot of families that live in there, which creates slum conditions. Did we address any of that as part of the development?
that is part of the enactment, and the document itself, the specific plan, maintains that there's certain requirements for architectural requirements in terms of what's allowed, what's not allowed. It has allowable land uses within each type of residential area. And the project is conditioned to provide either something like a homeowners association or some other type of financing mechanism to allow to maintain the project.
Because I'm sure that Chief Newjar would note that, when you've got these small lots and a lot of people start moving in, pues ahí viene mi primo, mi tía, and everybody else moves in. That would create a slum condition with a lot of people. But you said there would be homeowner associations, if you will.
For the townhomes and the apartment complexes, yes.
How about the other ones?
The other ones, they're still subject to regular city ordinance and enforcement. I mean, the city does have restrictions on the number of families that can live in a home, those still apply.
So am I to assume that the other subdivisions on either side would have R1 lots, Mr. Servino? Would that be correct? So that there would be a pretty good mixed use on that?
That is correct.
But this specific one is for multifamily dwellings?
Multifamily dwellings, and there are some single-family dwellings.
Because I did notice a school on the left and a school on the right. And this would be mostly...
This is mostly residential with a community park. Again, the duplexes are single-family units. They are for sale.
They're duplexes.
They're duplexes.
But they're not on a specific dedicated lot where it's a single-family dwelling, which is the R1 zones that we have in the community.
They're 2 lots, but the concept between a zero lot line is that when the houses are constructed, they're constructed real close to each other. And then you have all your setbacks are on one side to make it look like one building. but they're two individual, single-family units that will be for sale
Because I noticed
independently.
the footage across the top was 35 feet,
Yes,
and one of our substandard lots are 5,000 feet.
but the net effect is that you have a 70-foot wide lot with what appears to be one building, but they're two homes.
I was very impressed
Yeah.
with the park, Mr. Garcia. I think that is a big necessity in our community, and whenever we have parks like this, it's a good thing for everyone involved. Let me ask you this. Would that park be part of the first phase, or would that be left for later, or even maybe a retention basin? Would that be labeled? But it's labeled a park, so I'm assuming it would have all the amenities of a park, the sprinkler systems.
It's an at-grade park.
It's not a retention basin.
Not a retention
basin's on the
basin.
fringes.
That's correct.
Would it be in the first phase, or would it be in the second phase?
You know, there are some conditions that state how that park is to be phased in. It would be economically difficult to build the entire park at first. I'm sure that it would be developed in portions as needed.
Okay. But it'll be a dedicated park with a sports complex? Because I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a dedicated park, and the park impact fees that are paid by the developer will go to providing those types of amenities, and the amenities will be chosen by the city of Calexico.
A couple more questions, if you can bear with me.
Yes.
Seeing that this is what appears to be an isolated subdivision, like an island out in the middle of county area, how would that affect the city? Maybe Mr. Servin could answer that question. Would that be a negative impact to the city if we've got like a little village out as it's developed, or would it be complementing the city? What would be the answer to that question?
The answer is that the city approved another subdivision, the Estrella subdivision, immediately on the other side of Meadows Road. So it's that whole corridor, all those projects, Santa Fe, Palazzo, Estrella, Mega Park, which is coming back, all those will form one continuous development.
So in other words, we approve it tonight.
It'll get built when it's economically feasible.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, affordable housing.
It's a mix.
How does it line up, Mr. Rodriguez, with the housing element and the general plan? Or who can answer that question?
Well, we're way behind as far as providing for units. Certainly, there's two sides to it, just regular market units and also the affordable housing units. But as a whole, as far as creation of units, we're behind.
We're behind. So this would be good for the housing element and aligns itself with the general plan. A couple more questions, Mr. Kim, if you would indulge me. The burrowing owls, we've noticed that is an environmental issue throughout the county of Imperial. And I noticed that on the report that there were certain areas with the burrowing owls. What are we going to build over those, or what's going to happen to those? Is it a big impact on the environment?
They are a species of concern, and the project is required to conduct a pre-construction survey no less than 60 days before. There's also mitigation that if any pairs are found, that there are some conditions that some alternate habitat be found, or a land bank. The city does not have a program for mitigation of owls. There are several methods, again, that owl survey, relocation, and Ms. Bird might have some other points.
He's correct in that you would do pre-construction surveys for the burrowing owl. They'll be looking for evidence of either burrows that are being utilized by burrowing owl, whether or not they see the owl. If they find those, they will do continuous surveys. You have to have a buffer around what the construction is. Usually, it's in coordination with the California Department of Fish and Game as to what to do if burrowing owls are found. Usually relocation of the owl. So they'll trap them, they'll relocate them to an area that's not existing development or it doesn't look like it's going to be a future development. But burrowing owls are very active in agricultural land, so it's a common occurrence, and CDFG has a way to deal with it and to mitigate for it.
And finally, street names. I've noticed that some of the street names are rather unusual in Italian. We live in a predominantly Hispanic community. Would we be allowed to share perhaps maybe some of our street names from our street name committee? along with-
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
You know,
Italian?
I'm Mexican, but I don't eat Mexican food exclusively, so.
No, I know, but I would be a mixture of both,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm
because we have a
part
street
Italian.
naming
No,
committee.
no, no, no,
and we
I-
want to put them to work,
No, no.
okay?
No, we'd be more than happy to accommodate any street naming suggestions the city would have or desires.
Well, I just want to thank you on the great presentation. I haven't seen one of these in a long time. When I got it, I was very excited, having served on the planning commission for 10 years, so to me, it was like a breath of fresh air. Finally, we're starting to make some headway in residential and commercial development within the city of Calexico. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. If I may, with the rest of the council, we'll entertain some comments from the audience. Mr. June Kim?
Mr. Mayor, we need to actually open the public hearing. I don't know that we've done that.
That's
so-
right. We have not opened up the public hearing. Okay, we'll open up the public hearing for this item at 8:50. All those, Mr. Kim, I don't know where you stand, but all those not in favor of this project, please come forward.
Well, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jung Kim, as a concerned citizen here. I'm pretty sure the street name, I think Mr. Moreno, John Moreno name is supposed to be there. That's joking.
We got enough Morenos, though.
Okay. I'd like to have some question about with the church, they have 1,120 houses, units. Without the church, it's 1,207 units. How many population each unit we counting? How many population each unit, like average?
2.5 family members.
The average number of persons per unit is hard to determine, but we use the city's housing element, and I believe that's 4.25 persons per dwelling unit.
4.2. Okay, let's say 4.2.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 4.2 population each unit, that means like almost more than 5,000 population there.
It could be.
About 5,000
Yeah,
populations.
yeah. If there were exactly 4.2 persons per unit.
Yes.
Some will be
So
more, some will be less.
You implementing cities, the average
Yes.
population?
Yes.
Let's go with that.
Yes, sir.
So like about 5,000 population down here?
Yes, sir.
How many adults in there, how many kids going to be from the 4.2? Maybe half of them?
Well, obviously, two parents and then two kids. So
Okay,
half
let's
of
say
them,
two
yes.
kids, average 2 kids.
2.2 kids.
So that means we're talking about over 2,000 kids is there.
Yes, sir.
And that project, I don't see any schools there.
No, sir, there's a 20-acre school site on the subdivision to the west. There's a school site on the Santa Fe project.
But it's not your project.
They are projects that have been approved, and there are school sites that were approved as part of the tentative map.
Yes, but what I'm understanding, the project they have, when they, to provide the land to the school site, they are be able to handling the population of their project.
Yes, and the school district did, early on during the scoping meetings for the EIR, did have an opportunity to commend.
So which is, if you don't
Mr. Kim?
provide...
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to please allow him to finish before you resume.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, they did provide comments during the scoping meeting for the EIR, and they were satisfied with the number of school sites that were proposed throughout the Jasper corridor, and that they could easily accommodate all the proposed students.
So over 2,000 students, the population, this project is not providing the school. I don't believe the other project, even they have a little leftover room, but I don't believe they're going to be able to handle over 2,000 population of the schools. I believe our city council has to be considered about the school site.
Yes.
That way, if they can have a self-generating school facility for that project. That's my main concern about that.
Mr. Kim, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Servin, don't you have impact fees for the school district that will go into this?
Well, yes, state law requires that either you dedicate land or you pay impact fees per SB 50.
Okay, so the school district will be compensated in one way or another?
One way or another, yes.
So, you said the impact fee is going to be compensated for the land.
State law requires that either you dedicate the land or you pay in lieu fees, which are the development impact fees that are currently charged by the CLXC Unified School District, which are updated every, I believe they get implemented in June. And city requires that before they actually issue a building permit, that the applicant provide proof of having paid those fees to the school district.
Okay, please help me to understand. There is every construction, they have impact fees. That's what I'm understanding.
Yes, sir.
Regardless of to the schools or not. But you saying is there an additional fee for if you don't locate the land for the school, you have to pay extra the fee for
Yes,
that?
sir. Yes, sir. I'm not quite sure what the current impact fee is, but last year it was $5.20-something per livable square foot. So a 1,000 square foot house pays over $5,000 to the school district.
Okay, so they're going to have an additional charges because you're
Yes,
not
sir.
providing the land?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Is anyone here who wishes to speak against the project? There is not. Before I go with the next one, I know that Chief Newjar, you want to have some comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to bring a little history back here again and remind you of past, and I don't want to say failures because this is a great project, and I think it's in a great area, and I'm really excited to see that area build up. But in the past, we've had a serious problem, and Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado can attest to that, no parks. And I respect Mr. Garcia a lot, and but you can't, this is not a time when you can start doing a little dance. We had to sue Victoria's in order to be able to get the little park that we've got. When they were on the planning commission, Mr. Moreno, you saw it, they had this regional softball fields and a beautiful layout. And it really sold the project. We were going to have the best sports facility in the whole county. And what do we have? In Mayor Pro Tem's neighborhood, there was a beautiful park there too. There is no park.
I have 2.5 acres of dirt.
And so the problem is there needs to be a mechanism. And I understand that going in the project, you don't want to bust the project beginning in order to be able to have a park. But there has to be a trigger, and there was. I have to tell you, even in Victoria's, there was a trigger, but nobody pulled it in order to get the park started before the project ended. So by the end, occupancy permits were issued, and no park. So there needs to be a mechanism in there in order to be able to force a developer to develop the park at a stage where it will be done when those houses begin to be occupied.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hodge, let's go with the public hearing. All those in favor of the projects, please come forward. And nobody, no one, then it's 8:59. We'll close the public hearing. City Attorney, it's okay to resume discussion by the council?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hodge, you wanted to say something?
Thank you very much, Chief Newjar. You took the words right out of my mouth. That is exactly what I was concerned about. Mr. Garcia, history again. The residents here are relatively skeptical about promising parks. So maybe could you answer our concern? Is there, or anyone, I didn't read everything here, but is there some type of mechanism or guarantee that we will have parks as indicated, that will not be abandoned?
one of the conditions of approval for this project is that a landscape and lighting district be established to help maintain the park. As far as phasing of the park, that typically is handled through the conditions of approval. And certainly, it would not be an issue to say that prior to issuing of the first building permit, that a phasing plan for the park be approved by the city of Calexico. I mean, that's not an issue.
So, Mr. City Manager, we don't have any kind of mechanism or any teeth here about being able to guarantee parks? We need to work on that?
I believe that those comes into the conditions before we issue the permits.
Typically, on conditions of approval, there is some type of phasing instructions as to, after, say, the 200th issuance of certificate of occupancy, you develop X amount of the park.
Right,
Typically, that's how it's handled.
You would detail that out before whatever the next house is that's going to be built, then you would have an agreement on that.
There's an agreement.
I don't know
Contractual
that
agreement.
it's in here. Maybe we need to talk to a consultant about this, because I don't believe anything in these documents the council would
I
approve
don't think
tonight
it's on
has that
this, no.
trigger.
We'd have to have an agreement, come on.
Correct. I assume what you're getting at is by the certain number of occupancy, so the 600th out of 12 or 400 or whatever it may be.
I'm not an expert about the
Right,
phasing,
that's
but
the way it would be.
I just want some kind of legal guarantee that we work together and we have parks, that they're not abandoned, you know, regardless of what phase. I mean, someone that's more of an expert could tell me which one is better, but I want to see something in writing.
A couple of the conditions that are in here, as Mr. Garcia indicated, there is for the landscape lighting maintenance district that needs to be formed. And then also there's a condition that identifies the applicant shall pay applicable park fees. So they will have to pay for those fees as they go through the construction. But we
see.
can very easily add a condition indicating that a park phase plan shall be approved prior to the issuance of building permit or something to
So
that effect.
district, and they'll pay.
Yeah.
And we can add a condition.
Is a condition on the lighting district that has to be formed before any occupancies?
Not to my recollection, but there are conditions in terms of establishing other financing districts for maintenance as well, for operational.
We want to be very specific on what those triggers are, so that there's no misunderstandings later on.
You know, it would certainly make sense that some of these districts be formed before you actually issue a certificate of occupancy, and you have parks to actually maintain. I mean, that's, I don't think that's an issue at all.
But they would have sprinkler systems and trees and all that in the development.
Yeah, that is identified, condition 34, final landscape irrigation detail plan prior to final map. So we do have those. I think that's what I was thinking of in that one, was for the prior to final map.
But does that apply to the landscaping for the individual houses as opposed to the park? Because is that supposed to include the park landscaping and irrigation detail plan?
The intention was for that because prior to the final map, we wouldn't have the homes or the landscaping for the homes at that point. There it is. Knew I had it.
Found it, okay.
Number 41, prior to issuance of building permit, applicant shall provide assurance that all requirements of the City of Calexico Administrative Services Department have been met, i.e. Community Facilities District, Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District in respect to the buildings for which the permits are requested. So prior to any building permit, they will have to have the LLMD formed in that as well.
But again, it's not specifically including the park, because that could be just talking about the lighting on the streets and the lighting in the neighborhood as opposed to the park.
Right.
If the council intends then for them to make things specific to the park, I suggest those be put specifically into the resolution so that there is no confusion that you're talking about the park and lighting and landscaping for the other areas.
Yeah, I don't either, but it should go in there, in reference to also the triggers for
Right.
how many occupancies before they do certain things. And if we want to leave it so that the trigger is through the approval of the city, I don't know if they'll agree to it, but we do need to put something in there.
I mean, at this point, is the applicant ready to negotiate a condition tonight that council approves? Do you want to continue it so that we can discuss a condition to be added to the resolution?
I think a condition worded such that prior to the issuance of a building permit, a park phasing plan shall be approved to the city's satisfaction.
Before the issuance of the building permit. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Does that make it comfortable?
Yeah, as long as it's on the issuance of the building permit, not an occupancy. When we get to the occupancy, it's too late at that point.
Park development.
What is your recommendation, Oscar?
Well, we want to make sure that we have an agreement in place and that the agreement is based on, before the pulling of X permit, certain things have to be done rather than the occupancy.
Okay.
So that's what Jennifer was drafting.
So would something to the effect of prior to the issuance of the first building permit for any phase in the development, a park development and phasing plan shall be approved to the satisfaction of the city council? I don't know if that gets staff's intent.
If it goes for approval today, how would it be addressed with the council in the future if it is satisfactory to the council?
Well, there'd have to be an agreement structured that, do we have to bring that back for approval, or with the condition, would that be?
Well, the way I'm suggesting it, that the park phasing and development plan
Come
would be
back.
brought to the council. So they apply for their first building permit.
Right.
Before that building permit can be issued, council would have to consider and approve
The phasing plan?
the phasing and development plan
Okay.
of the park.
Okay, because then at that point, we can reach an agreement as to, at what point in time are certain things going to be done on that park. I'm certainly sympathetic that you can't put the park in all front, but you can understand our concerns that the park never gets built and you're in the
No,
third phase.
I absolutely understand. And again, I don't believe it's an issue with the applicant to provide that agreement.
I'd like to just add that I recall that with a certain development that I shouldn't be talking about because it would be a conflict, there was an issue where the plan included an alternate option of paying a park fee instead of building a park. And that led to a lot of those, the reasons why a park was never built in that development was because the alternate option was taken of just paying the park fees to a certain fund, I recall. So I think that we would also need to ensure that we're staying away from something like that. That it's just 100% solid building a park, no options.
Once again, state law, also known as the Quimby Act, requires that for every 1,000 people, that a minimum of 3 acres be provided as a park, and it provides for either dedication of land or payment of in lieu fees or a combination of both. So we are required to provide, number one, either the park space, dedicate the land, pay in lieu fees, or do a combination of both. In this case, we're providing the park, and then we're paying per the city's requirement, which is now 5 acres for 1,000 persons, I believe. And then we are paying the development impact fees for park, which would go towards the implementation of amenities.
So that may not cover the full build-out of the amenities on the park.
No, the 17 acres or 19 acres of park takes care of the Quimby Act issue.
Right, but you're saying you're doing a combination of providing the land and paying the fees, but
No,
that
no,
doesn't
no,
mean...
no. No, the Quimby
You're-
Act allows for that. Either you dedicate the land, you pay in lieu fees, or you can do a combination of both. In this case, full mitigation per Quimby Act is being met by the 19 acres.
Therefore, the developer's not proposing to develop this park.
No, we are required to provide irrigation system, ground cover, and some street trees. And then we pay park development impact fees that are city impact fees. They go towards the installation of amenities.
Okay, but I think that's something that council needs to understand, that developer's not going to be paying to build all of these facilities on the park.
We will be paying development impact fees that go towards that.
Right.
If the council wishes that the developer provide some of those amenities, obviously there would need to be a reimbursement or fee credit issue, and that's allowable under your ordinance as well.
The impact fees that are being paid, has our staff looked at the amenities that will be provided and whether those impact fees are enough to provide those amenities?
I haven't had a chance to review them, but George is right. We can have a combination of those, either providing impact fees or having them put the facilities in there, or a combination of all of the above.
Just want to make sure that we understand that if they pay the impact fees, that doesn't necessarily mean you get everything there. They're going to pay their impact fees, and that's why I'm asking, does the impact fees calculate to be able to put all those amenities in there?
Those impact fees are paid at the issuance of building permit.
Understand that, but I guess the question is, you've shown us a park, you've shown us certain things that go on there, you're going to pay your impact fees. Is the impact fees going to be sufficient to place those amenities in there?
Those are conceptual amenities of things that could go in there. That's not to say that that's what it's going to end up. You know, that'll be up to the city to decide as to what type of amenities. When Teisler Bish conducted your impact fee study, that study determined that there was an appropriate impact fee for city parks to cover those amenities. The fees that would be paid by this development would be in accordance with that fee study and the current development impact fees.
The other thing I think is very important to understand is that there is a lighting district that is scheduled, or a CFD, if I understood that correctly, which would provide for the maintenance of the area. So that needs to be in place, and we need to make sure that obviously, whether it's a CFD, and I know CFDs are bad letters to use, but maintenance CFDs are not bad mechanisms. It's when you get into construction CFDs that a lot of us has had issues with. But we need to make sure that that element is in place, because it doesn't do any good, obviously, to put the amenities if you're not going to take care of them. So we need to make sure that that's in place. And that, I believe, is prior to moving forward, correct? Has to be done, okay.
It will address the park, the maintenance of the park, and we can decide how we're going to develop it, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that you will get to decide how you're going to spend those impact fees for amenities.
For amenities.
Yes.
Reading like your item number 41, it could be a CFD or a lighting and landscape maintenance district, and that's what you're referring to.
No.
This is beyond the park maintenance.
No, the landscape and lighting maintenance is a condition that's imposed to ensure that the city has the funding available to maintain that park. So that's what that's for, and to provide, to pay for the replacement of the city light bulbs when they go out, the city lights go out, street lights. That's what that's for. The city imposed, and I believe it was approved in 2008, the new development impact fee study that was done by Teisler Bish. They adopted a new set of impact fees, and it was determined through that study that the fees that were going to be collected at the issuance of a building permit would be sufficient per each residential unit to cover the anticipated expenses per that study.
For the means of,
No, not for maintenance, for equipment, restrooms, whatever you want to build on it.
okay.
We're required to provide the land, we're required to provide an irrigation system, ground cover, and street trees. The proponent, the applicant would pay impact fees per your fee study that go towards the future improvements and amenities, which would be totally at the discretion of the city as to what they want to install there.
So you have two mechanisms. One is the impact fees goes towards the amenities, to put the amenities, and then you have the other system, which is a CFD or lighting district, to make sure you can maintain it.
Please don't refer to it as a CFD.
Maintenance CFDs are not bad.
It looks like a duck, it walks like a duck.
Okay. Anything else by the council? Mr. Hodge, you still have a question mark?
No, I mean, it's made it a lot clearer. And, you know, I want to thank our city manager and our attorney. I really felt that you came to our defense in trying to dig into what the situation was. But then on the other hand, Nick and everybody, did you know about the situation about the parks? I mean, was it clear to you? And if not, why wasn't something like this? I mean, we're up here, we get this, but you are the experts. Why wasn't these understandings or conditions absolutely crystal or clear? And or correct me, or I feel like we're just discovering it now. The problem or the concern. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure, since this project has been before you, a few years ago.
Okay.
I would imagine that those items were discussed. I didn't focus on any particular item. I was more
I'm not
focused.
just singling you out, Nick. I mean, everybody that's
I
involved in
realize.
this project. Yeah, because
Sure.
wow, if we had not brought this up, would have got by us.
Yep.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, would have got by us.
We get wiser every year.
Yeah, but see, this is what we want to prevent, because we owe it to these people to have real parks. Thank you.
That's good.
All right. Anybody else?
I motion to approve.
Well,
We have
wait a minute,
various resolutions that
Okay.
we need
Wait.
to approve in a
That's right,
certain
City
order.
Attorney?
Public hearing is still open, I'm sorry, Mr.
No, the public hearing is closed. Now it's up
You feeling
to
all right?
discussion by the council.
Good.
I'll read that to them when we get there.
Before I start with my, because I have several questions or concerns. And before I do that, I'll read number 36 on this agreement. And this is for those that have page 8.
Thank you.
Those who are involved with the school district. Number 36 reads, prior to issuance of any building permits, applicant shall provide assurance that all state-mandated school impact mitigation fees payment to Senate Bill 50 or other applicable law have been paid or addressed as provided or authorized by law. Anyway, so those involved in the school district, you know that they will be addressing that issue when the time comes. All right, it's obviously it's great news that you have a 17.35 acre community park, and that besides that, you'll have the retention basin, which they can use for similar purposes, although that's more of a, you cannot depend on it much. And that's, let me see here, okay. Now, one of the things that, that this presentation mentions is that the 6 million gallon water tank that sits on the east side of the city is going to be, it'll be connected to that tank. Mr. Servin, I have had conflicting reports if it is in operation, not in operation. Is it in operation?
It is being maintained. It is in operation. As far as how much service it is provided to the city, I'm not privy to that information.
Okay, so, but when this thing gets going, it'll definitely be ready.
Yes.
What's the timetable if this thing gets approved? What's the timetable? I know that you said that when it's economically feasible. Is there a general idea when you'll break ground?
Give us the answer when the economy is going to turn, okay? We need that.
The overall development of the project for 1,000 homes, you know, if you look back, traditionally, the city of Calexico has probably issued, I'm going to guess, 200-300 building permits per year, and that's for all development. And once all these other projects come online, you know, it's going to be a while.
5 years?
I would say 5 years is being optimistic. You know, it may take longer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you also have the mixed-use village that is projected to maybe have a 3-story building. Do the impacts to the city include it where we can assure that the fire department will be able to service that 3rd floor?
Yes, all that would be taken care of during the actual architectural plan check prior to construction and approval of building permits.
Okay, so all the impact fees will be taken care of whenever you wish to initiate the construction. All right, that's already been touched on regarding the maintenance of the park. So if anything, there will be revenues to the city on an annual basis that the city will then have the option of how it wishes to expense those to maintain the park?
That is correct.
Good. I know that within the city limits, there's an issue of site control. This is not in the city limits. And I don't know if this is conceptual or virtual or whatever. Is there site control right now?
By site control, do you mean
Purchase, ownership, et cetera?
the applicants? The applicants are the owners of the property, yes.
Thank you. And one of my questions that I always ask regarding any form of development is there, I did not see a document with a package. Have all financial obligations been met with the city? City manager? Finance director? Mr. Servin, somebody?
As far as I know, all their payments have been made, right? The deposits have been made, and they're not owing the city any money at this point.
All the payments to planning have been made. They'll be making more payments once they submit plans for plan check and permits.
But to date, all have been met?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, economically feasible in the future, maybe 5 years, maybe more, maybe less. But with all the vacant homes that exist right now in the city of Calexico, there's still a optimistic approach that this is a very viable project.
Obviously, the home values are extremely depressed, and to be honest with you, you probably could not build a brand-new home for what you can get in an existing home. But I think that the idea is that when the market turns around, and granted there is a large inventory of foreclosed homes and whatnot, but once that clears out, there is a pent-up demand. At that point, it would be, home prices would go up, home values, and that would make it more feasible. It's hard to say exactly when the construction start date. It's not going to be tomorrow, it's not going to be 6 months from now. The tentative map, if approved, will have a shelf life of 2 years. And then there's the option of extensions of requirements, filing of final maps. The filing of final map extends the life of the tentative map by 3 years. We can request a 1-year extension from the city, and if the city chooses to approve, total life of the tentative map is 10 years. So there's a 10-year window of opportunity. It is not the applicant's intent to let it sit there for 10 years and then spend all this money for nothing.
So using whatever guideline, rule of thumb that is out there, that you anticipate that the market is going to go back up, then you'll initiate the process of building those homes, and with a belief, obviously, that they will sell. That, like you said a little while ago, they're just not going to sit there for a while.
That is correct.
Well, one of the things, as Mr. Moreno said a little while ago, this is something that you've been on the plans for some time, and we are, the city is thankful that you have the confidence of putting in a project like this for the city of Calexico. But I guess I have to ask, because of what happened with the previous project.
Totally
is
understood.
that, has there been due diligence by city staff that the owners of the project have the means to make sure that this thing goes completely through? Because we did have one project that escaped. And I guess that goes to the city staff. Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Servin, somebody?
Well, there's a lot of requirements that are put on the developer, and there's a lot of requirements that they have to meet up front. If we were to get into bonding situations with CFDs and stuff, that's a whole different ballgame. But the fact that they have to do certain things, read certain conditions before they move forward, before they can even pull building permits, I don't foresee a problem. I mean, I don't know. If you're asking me, have we looked at their bank account to make sure they got $5 million? No.
Well, I'm sure that they've invested a lot of money in this project to this date, but it's going to cost a heck of a lot more once they initiate.
Correct.
And obviously, we don't want a eyesore out there that something does get started, and then all of a sudden, they just don't have the means to complete it.
And maybe I can answer Mr. Romero's question by stating that I don't know of very many builders that build homes out of pocket. There's usually a construction loan involved.
No, I'm sure their loans are going to get involved. I understand that. But do they have the resources to secure those kind of finances?
For construction, typically, whatever collateral is agreed upon between the bank and the builder, I'm not to say what it is, but prior to even the issuance of a building permit, a final map will have to be approved, and that requires a bonding for all the required improvements that would service that particular map.
Thank you.
You're
You answered
welcome.
all my questions. You want to say
I just
something,
wanted
Mr.
to-
Bruno?
If you're going to open it up to someone other than the applicant, you probably should open the public hearing again.
Sorry,
Okay,
Mr.
I'm
Bruno.
not I'm part of the group. I just want to express a little on the home sales. We built 30 homes on the west side of Calexico, all sold out. The home sales are coming back. We have a project in Raleigh, same developer, same builder, which all the city council was invited to, Florentine Collection. And we're averaging more than a house a week. And we're also building in Imperial. Started pouring foundations last week. So the market is coming back. And this builder, this developer, is probably the most aggressive in the Imperial Valley. He's building in Calexico, he's building in Imperial, he's building in Brawley, and soon El Centro. And you can go on the internet, you can see his projects. There's Florentine Collection in Brawley. It's one of the nicest condo projects in the Imperial Valley. It's a gated community. There's Paradiso in Imperial. It's 240 homes that will be being built. And in El Centro, there's I don't know how many homes are in El Centro, and in Calexico, we've just finished off Las Haciendas, which Mrs. Estrada's daughters, there's 2 living in that project. So we're happy and participating a lot with a first-time home buyer from the city. So there is home sales, and I'm glad to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say?
Yes.
I want to learn here. So are we saying in the real world, we have developers in city, we come in agreement to build big projects and they don't have money? It's a throw of the dice hoping for bonding, or and shouldn't we be responsible for?
Well, this is not a joint project with the city and the developer. This is a developer coming and seeking entitlements. If the developer were asking money of the city or the former redevelopment agency, that would be a different case. and staff would investigate the financial resources, but planning
Okay.
entitlements, I'm not
Okay.
aware of anything in state or local law that requires the developer to submit their financials for something. These are just land use entitlements.
Okay.
So
So under
if that
what
is something that
so what
this,
under what circumstances should we be due diligent of knowing, and really certainly we appreciate this, believe me, but we need to do our homework and we need to learn on our part, when should we, on due diligence, under what circumstances, make sure whatever entity is coming, they've got money.
well, as the city manager mentioned, if we were talking about doing a CFD or some other financial mechanism related to this project, that may allow the city to do the investigation.
Okay.
When you formerly had a redevelopment agency and developers were seeking funds from the redevelopment agency as part of a disposition and development agreement or an owner participation agreement, again, that would be a project where the city is putting money in and the city could
Okay.
review financials. But this is just a straight land use entitlement.
Okay.
It's not a joint project with the city, and therefore the city, the conditions that have been put on them are related to development. But, again, I'm not aware of any city or state law that includes a requirement that the developer submit their financials and can demonstrate at this stage that they are going to be able to fully produce a project.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
You're welcome.
Best of luck with this project. Obviously, the sooner we see the construction out there, the sooner that we know that the market's back, the economy's back up.
I hope so. Thank you.
What's the consensus of this council?
Well, I'd like to motion on 9A.
Well, we have to go one by one. City Attorney?
Yes, the first, if council wants to consider approving this, the first step in the entitlement process is the resolution certifying the final environmental impact report,
That's A.
and the council can consider a motion on that resolution first.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. Moreno? You moved on it?
Moved on certifying the final EIR.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Moreno, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado. Please vote. Okay, 4-1. Okay, monitoring and reporting, is that
5-0.
correct? Okay, 5-0.
My button has a problem.
Okay.
Motion
I just caught me by surprise that you seconded and then voted against it.
Motion to approve monitoring and reporting program.
Actually, that was a typo, I believe, on the agenda. The next one would be the resolution approving the general plan amendment.
Motion to approve the general plan amendment.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Moreno, second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. 5-0. And next one would be the ordinance.
The ordinance on the zone change, you would be introducing by title only, waiving full reading. And one correction is, again, the ordinance does have the date of March 20th, and council may consider changing their regular meeting to a separate date at the end of this meeting.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Moreno, second by
Second.
Mr. Hodge. Please vote. 5-0.
And Mr. Mayor, I do need to read the title of that ordinance at this point. It's an ordinance of the City of Calexico, California, approving the zone change, pre-zone, to change the zoning classifications for the Palazzo Project Area 2 specific plan. Thank you.
Thank you. E?
So moved.
It's the ordinance on the specific plan.
Motion by Mr. Moreno,
Second.
second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. Passes 5-0.
And it is an ordinance of the City of Calexico, California, approving the Palazzo specific plan.
Resolution.
Commencing proceedings for annexation. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Romero, Mr. Moreno, now I did it. second by Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado. Please vote. Passes 5-0. I never thought I would do that. Resolution.
Approving the tentative map, so
And
moved.
I do have some modifications to suggest to council based on your prior direction. I guess the first one is the applicant's request, which was on page 4, section 9. I believe it's 1, 2, 3. The fifth line down, we would insert "in respect of such final map." And again, that was in the Planning Commission resolution. It was probably inadvertently deleted, so that language would be inserted. And then on page 8, the council can consider requesting condition 41A, and it could read that prior to the issuance of the first building permit for any phase of the project, a park development and phasing plan is submitted by the applicant and approved to the satisfaction of the city council.
Okay, motion again by Mr. Moreno.
Second.
By Mr. Hodge. Please vote. Five zero. Are we finished with this item, City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank-
As a procedural matter, 2 of the ordinances will come back to council at your next regular meeting for a second reading.
Thank you. Thank you, applicant, and everybody involved in the project. Good luck. Hope to see you out there sooner rather than later. Thank you. All right, future, am I right? Future agenda items? Mr. Moreno.
Just perhaps a update on the pool, if you're sitting on it?
Yes. There's been no update
No,
since the state situation with the redevelopment and with the school district. We have not had any future meetings, additional meetings.
Well, then the other item, bringing the bed tax,
The
Mr.
TOT?
Hargraves, yeah, Mr. Hargraves.
Mr. Hargrave's request.
Right.
Okay, your future agenda item is in regards to the TOT with the Calexico Chamber of Commerce. And
And if I understood that correctly, just for clarification, that's coming in for discussion?
For discussion.
Okay.
Right, discussion and/or interaction?
Well, if you would want to have an action item,
Okay, discussion and
then we, as administration, will want to meet with them and find out what their ideas are, what their concepts are, and what we can recommend and so on. If you just want to bring it back for discussion on council to then give us direction on what to do, that's something else. So,
Well, then bring it back to the next council meeting, but maybe with that you've already met with the chamber.
okay, so you want us to meet with them first?
Yes.
Okay, so that may, depending on how that goes, that may take a little longer.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, Mr. Castro?
Yes, I've been asking for all the loans making by the Chelsea investment, and until today, I only received portion of that loans. I want that in, I want that item for the next future agenda, for the next public council meeting. I'm still waiting for that. I believe this is the third time that I asked for that, so I want that on the public council meeting for that information. That's it.
Mr. City Manager, can you make sure that it's available at the next regular session?
Yeah, we'll certainly put it on there. As you know, we've had changes in staff. We have one out on workman's comp who would normally take care of it. She's out for 6 weeks, and then we had all the movement around of the redevelopment agency, which is where it's at. But we will try our best to give you what we can with the personnel we have.
Thank you. Mr. Hunch?
Okay, City Manager, I understood what you just said right there, and I totally agree. But I really believe that the city has to reclaim a sense of urgency on some important city issues and goals. We all need to work together on this, and I know we all have our hands tied. But again, so therefore, I'm requesting an executive report or summary on a action plan, timeline, to reopen on Fridays, City Hall and the library, Pertaining to the City Hall, we might look at addressing possibly creating a skeleton crew to increase the city services and library services also. Regarding this skeleton crew to at least work the finance department and the library, collecting and servicing water bills, and at the library. And if the crew, if needed, to be trained, would take, like I said, the water payments and issue business licenses on Friday. I understand we still have some rough going economically, so maybe the hours could be shorter. So at least we'll be open on Fridays, maybe a capacity of 40% or 50%. Some kind of report that shows that we're moving forward on this in the middle of everything else we're doing. And also with the library, as an educator, I don't know, I just feel it's a disservice to education to be closed on Fridays for our children and our community members. The other issue is to request another report for discussion, possible action if it lends it to that. Well, the report, on the recent grants the city applied for the parks. Just an update on that.
Well, I can actually give you an update now because we are constantly in communication with our reps. In fact, if you recall, we had a meeting with the district rep for Senator Vargas.
Correct.
Just the other day, and they're going to try and get additional information for us. But the bottom line is at this point, the Department of Parks and Rec is being very quiet on what's going on, and they're basically saying, we will give you announcements by the spring. What we have learned through talking to the reps and some other people is that they have made some site visits to some of the applicants. Whether that's positive or negative, we don't know. We have not received a site visit. But again, the department is keeping very quiet on it. Our reps, both our assemblymen and our senators, have called the department to find out if they can get information on it. But at this point, they're not giving any information. The only information they're giving is, we will make our awards in the spring and you will find out.
All right, fair enough, Mr. City Manager. But along with the issue about grants and parks, again, could we look at furthermore, maybe to be able to discuss in how to be more aggressive in acquiring grants for parks and also low-income housing? I mean, again, I kind of bite my tongue to say this, as I know we're in an economic situation, but somehow, some way, maybe we could hire someone to, and I think you've mentioned something like that, to work on grants. I think our city needs to be more aggressive in not waiting for them to give us emails or reports on the internet, but for us to go out and really look for grants and work on that, especially now with the elimination of RDA. So just a concern and just a suggestion. So hopefully we could have some kind of information on that. Thank you.
For information, in reference to the report of trying to open up on Fridays, as you know, this item very well ties into also negotiations. So I would ask that maybe this is an item that we need to discuss in the realm of negotiations, because it does impact employees and so on. And so we are certainly available to discuss this item in our executive session on negotiations and strategy. So I would suggest that that's where we discuss that item rather than open session, since we are starting our negotiations with the employees.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mayor Pro Tem Hurtado.
As we mentioned last meeting, we do have a list that we've already provided to staff, and I will be working on those future agenda items. I won't be requesting any further until I can work with that one list that I already have. But I do want to mention something that we had on consent agenda that actually, since everything was approved and we didn't really discuss it, is to acknowledge that we did have Jennifer's firm provide us with a 10% cut to her income. So I really want to thank you, Jennifer, for that. It was very generous of you to do that, and we do appreciate very much not only that, but everything else you do for the city of Calexico.
I think that needs to be recognized because even though Jennifer as an individual is a city attorney and is part of our staff, and she's taken the 10%, we were able also to discuss the idea of a firm taking the 10%, which was gracious to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely, thank you. Yes,
May I?
of course.
Also, I requesting how many commercial waters meters are broken in the city of Calexico and also residential areas. I've been asking for that information, so I want to put that on the future agenda.
Mr. City Manager, can you make
Public
sure it's at
council.
the next regular session?
I know that engineer is already working on it, so we should have it, right?
Thank you.
All right. Well, let me see here. That's it, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Yes.
And former Mayor Castro?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask for the city manager, city attorney. I like to see the proclamations read before public comments. A lot of times, these proclamations they're just here for that. And I think that I think it'll be best serve everybody involved that we go through the proclamations first before we go through public comments. Can that be addressed for the next meeting, so it can be approved as such? And if also that, in regards, I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Moreno's request, maybe not at the next meeting, but at the, definitely you can give us a report by the next continued regular session.
Sorry, report what?
On the a status on this thing with the TOT with the
Sure,
chamber.
we'll certainly have a meeting prior to that, and then we can at least let you know where we're at.
And the reason I'm writing piggyback on that comment is because I know that you're trying to get the budget done in a
Yes, sir,
by
trying
May
to meet
10th.
your deadlines.
By May 10th. Okay, if there is nothing else.
Before we adjourn.
Oh, yes, okay.
I believe the council wanted to consider canceling the March 20th regular meeting date, and therefore, I would request that council adjourn this regular meeting to March 27th, 2012, which is the Tuesday after that, for the 5:30 closed session, the 6:30 open session. So that would be known as an adjourned regular meeting on March 27th, 2012.
Okay, so we're adjourning today to March 27th. Thank you.
Thank you.